who are all still finishing your meals, we'll be live streaming tonight on Flow Sports. We'll be live streaming on CompetitionPlus.com. So those of you who are fortunate enough to be here in the house, maybe you got some people at home who would love to watch the event, you can fire off a text or an email real quick, or call them, and tell them it's on Flow Sports or CompetitionPlus.com. You can find us on YouTube. It will also be a CBS show in the future as well. But as you all know, the sport of drag racing, so great in person, but the television product really helps us tell the story. And there's some really big things that are going to be happening in the near future with and about one of our Hall of Fame members. You guys know I'm talking about Shirley Muldowney. Shirley's in the house. Where are you, Shirley? There she is. Hi, Shirley. I know you're excited, and I'm excited as well. And we have got a great opportunity. So I'd like to call Cindy Sissom up. Cindy from Women in Motorsport, please join us on the stage. You guys are going to get to experience something that we've been waiting for a long, long time. And we're going to have a very special moment right here before we get started. While Cindy makes her way to the stage, we're going to have a great auction here tonight, guys. And all the money is going to go to the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame and the Museum of Drag Racing. We got some great toolboxes, great artwork. So get ready. But now, Cindy, please join me on stage. We've got everybody warmed up. This is a tremendous moment. I know you have put a lot of work into what you're about to reveal to the audience. Please, the stage is yours.
Thank you. What an honor to be here tonight. Don. Hi, Don. Don Garlitz. Don, I'm calling you Bud. You are a blessing and a gem. And I also wanted to thank Chuck Capel, wherever Chuck is. If you haven't met this guy, he is a worker bee, and what a blessing Don has to have worked. That guy right there, yep, that's him. Let's give Chuck a big hand for tonight. He's so humble and just a really great friend to have worked with. So, as Joe said, my name is Cindy Sisson. I am the executive director of a foundation called Women in Motorsports North America. And we're a nonprofit dedicated to advocating for women in motorsports. Woo! Just not drivers, but all you hardworking ladies that are here. And a special shout out to the NHRA. I would have to say, in the world, this series is the most dedicated, focused series on advocating for women. And I'd like to give the NHRA a big hand for that. Amazing, amazing. So, if you didn't know, this is Women's History Month. How many didn't know? Raise your hand. Good. Oh, one little guy over here. Well, we need to work on that young man. Well, I wish she was here with me tonight, but Pam Miller is an 8-time Emmy Award winner. She's actually in Phoenix, and she's the co-producer, actually the producer of all the NASCAR races on Fox, the Cup races. And sadly, she couldn't be here, but for many, many years, she wanted to do a documentary on Shirley Muldowney. And she finally convinced the powers to be at Fox, and then the NHRA. And 3 years in the making, all over the country, we have been working hard to tell Shirley's story. Don's getting his salad dressing real quick here. So right after COVID, Pam and I had got together. We'd been friends forever. We started a series on Fox called Left Behind. And it was about amazing women racers who, well, were left behind. Have anybody here ever heard of Betty Skelton? Raise your hand. Oh, sad. Anybody heard of Paula Murphy? Raise your hand. Amen. So Paula was the first woman to get an NHR license, and sadly she passed this year, but it was such an honor to work on her documentary. So I'm proud to announce tonight that with Shirley, tomorrow we're having her world premiere. You would be the first people in the world to see it right here in this room. And there's tickets available. We'd love for you to join us, and you can go to womeninmotorsportsna.com. But what's going to be really special about tomorrow night is her dear friend Don Garlitz, who's still eating that salad. and Amanda Busick. Amanda, raise your hands. We'll do a Q&A after the documentary. And then just minutes ago, I just heard that the premiere of Shirley will air March 20th on Fox Sports 1 at 7 o'clock. So for those who missed tomorrow night in person with Dawn and Shirley and Amanda, you can watch it on television. So lastly, I want to do a special thanks to those who were interviewed in the Shirley documentary. Shirley herself, Don Garlitz, John Force, Angela Sampay, Bob Frey, Erica Enders, Steve Earwood, you were rocking it, dude, Stan Holt, Charles Pardal, which was Shirley's sponsor with Pioneer, Anthony Vestal, Rob Greger, and Dr. Terry Trammell. Thank you for your love and support and sharing your stories about Shirley. You guys are going to really, 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 really love this. So, Shirley, come on up. Glenn Cromwell, president of NHRA, where are you? Oh, he might be working. He's missing in action. Oh, excuse me. We're going to watch 4 minutes of the documentary, and then we'll call Shirley and Glenn up. Let's roll it. This is a teaser. They call it a teaser.
No one was going to stop me. Winning, winning, winning. There was no... From day one, that fire was there.
She had the killer instinct.
All she wanted was a shot to do it. It was personal. No one was going to stop me. Winning, winning, winning. There wasn't anything else I wanted to do.
Shirley Muldowney, the first woman ever to be licensed to drive a top-fuel register. She was a rock star.
Shirley Muldowney is the world champion. She won the world championship 3 times.
The most successful U.S. car driver
Ever. I wouldn't trade those years for anything.
Shirley Muldowney was Shirley Muldowney. She didn't have anybody on her side.
She did put up with an awful lot. I mean, from spectators, competitors, sanctioning bodies.
Shirley Muldowney becomes the first woman in history to win Top Fuel Eliminator.
They hated me here. The competition.
She had fans that would come up and spit in her face. Can you imagine that nowadays?
They used to throw soda cans at me with soda in them.
This was the only woman competing against all men.
Winning sets it all. And boy, did they have it coming.
Shirley's and Garlis was not an easy play. That was a dogfight.
She liked to beat me more than anybody else.
It was a true rivalry. He hated me, I hated him.
We had some violent words at times at these races.
I watched her go nose to nose with Don Garlis. Like 2 men at it. She was afraid of nobody.
Getting beat by a woman. This is Big Daddy Don Garlis. There's a girl beating him.
The last time we raced, I outran her. And that's the only race we count.
When she started challenging him, that's when she really exploded onto the scene.
Would you welcome please Shirley Muldowney?
Because of her, we got these great features from national news and national media, and a dream come true for a publicist.
The things that she achieved are for the history books.
The finals of the 28th Annual U.S. National. Shirley Muldowney has never won this title before. Her competition, the KT veteran, Connie Kalita.
I could see every single move.
There was so much tension and drama before that final, and so much on the line.
A great start for both cars, and Kalita drifts away out of the center of the track, and Shirley Muldowney goes straight ahead for the win.
It was such a classic race.
or she may not walk again. I wasn't hearing that.
That's what impressed me. Nothing was going to stop. It was just a question of when could she go to do what she wanted to do.
The entire industry said she would never race again. She fooled them all. She come back and raced.
She won races again.
I knew I could drive a race car.
Shirley, it's been lonely in the winter circle without you.
Yeah, it has.
You can't compare Shirley to anybody.
She's not just a woman who drove a race car. She's a race car driver who's a woman.
What she started has continued.
All of the things now that promote women in motorsports shows did all that by herself.
Shirley Muldowney is the greatest woman race car driver that ever lived and maybe ever will live.
There'll never be another Shirley.
For the sport's sake, I'm glad it was me. I was there and I wasn't going anywhere. And I was going to get what I was after.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shirley Muldowney.
It's pretty exciting. I can't wait to see the rest of it. Actually, I want to thank, my whole family is here, what I have left. And they came up from New York, or down from New York. All of them, just to be here. It's their first time. And they're going to go out and enjoy the race that I won 2 times. I just had to get that in. It's a nice one to win, let me tell you. And it's one of my favorites. So I'm happy to be here in Gainesville. I want to thank Cindy, who's held my hand here all year, and 2 years really, and helped me through this bio. There were times when I had to find my way and remember a lot that I hoped I would not remember, but all of it was, it made up a career, and it was worth it. I did and I'll leave you with this, I did an interview with Bryant Gumbel. We all remember him. He's somewhere in this world now, but we all remember Bryant Gumbel. I sat down, and he had a little trouble with his audio, and he looked up at the producers and said, "What the Frank is going on with this?" And I looked over at me and he went, "Movie? Why a movie?" And I said, "I did it for love." And I wasn't lying to him. Enjoy your evening. Thank you.
One moment, please. The president of the National Hot Rod Association, Mr. Glenn Cromwell, is here. And Glenn, please come to the stage.
I love surprises from a favorite guy.
Always a surprise. How are you?
Thank you so much.
So just want to say on behalf of the NHRA, what a great documentary. Cindy, great job. Pam from Fox, Frank Wilson. Finally, we get to tell the story that we all know in this room of what you have done for the sport and broke the barriers, the gender barriers, and made our sport the most diverse sport in all sports and motorsports. So congratulations. And also, I see all these are your trophies here.
I'm surprised. I mean,
But
it's shocking. All of that was sitting there.
They're all here except one.
Except one.
1977
Yes.
championship trophy.
I gave that to Dave Mandela, who was nice enough to take Ron Atterbury's car that they found in a garage, covered up all dusty, the late Ron Atterbury, and he redid that car and brought it back, and it's more beautiful than it ever was, and I wanted him to have the full package, so I gave him the trophy.
That's great. That is great.
Thank you.
We thought it would be only appropriate to make you that trophy and
wow.
present that to you tonight. And I also thought it was only appropriate for Steve Gibbs, who was the director of competition in 1977, to come up on stage with the trophy and
Thank
present
you.
it to you with me.
Thank you. Oh, wow. Oh. Oh, my God. Take Look at that.
Steve, step in here.
Little did they know.
Little did they know.
Little did they know when I showed up what was going to happen.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay,
I have to do a little thank you for all the posters. You each received one. Thanks to Don Garlett's Museum, Wynn, and J.W. Marriott. No, McNeil. Sorry. This is my only second NHRA race. I'm just getting to know y'all, but you're in big trouble now.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah, you take it. Thank you so much, Joe.
Of course. How about that? March 20th, 7 p.m. It's a Wednesday. Set your DVRs, write it down, put it in your phones. All you kids, remind your parents. You're not going to want to miss it, surely, by the folks at Fox. And remember, if you don't want to wait, you can come in here, this room, tomorrow night. And Amanda Busick, who is right out there, is going to host a Q&A with Shirley and Don. And you guys are going to all watch it. And so I know we're going to be wrapping up, hopefully around 6-something. You'll have time maybe to come back here and be a part of it right here in this room. I certainly hope that I'm able to come and do it. But make your plan for tomorrow night. And, of course, Women in Motorsport, go to the website, and it goes to a great cause that you just saw. How about that for a moment, guys? What a great way to start the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. Yes. And now it's time to raise a little money. All right, get your wallets out. Yeah, here we go. Now, when you came in tonight, you saw some amazing toolboxes and some amazing artwork. They are over there under our fantastic jib camera. We're sending our camera crew over there. But you guys all got to see, and you know that the proceeds of this live auction that I'm about to host right now are going to the 2025 International Drag Racing Hall of Fame ceremony and the Museum of Drag Racing. Those toolboxes were presented by J.W. McNeil and Kim McNeil. Where are you guys? J.W., where are you? And Kim. They work all year long on these toolboxes, and they are recruiting some of the best talent. They started designing and donating these toolboxes all the way back in 2005 with the help of Paul Randall, who owns Cardinal Signs right here in Gainesville. The pinstriping was done by Geet Faulkner, the owner of LN Signs in Ocala. Each year they build a toolbox in the honor of Don Garlett's. This year, we've got one of those available for auction. There is also a toolbox in the honor of Bruce Larson. And when Bruce Larson saw it, he says, I'm taking it. And just like that, that one is going on. Thank you for that, Bruce. Pretty amazing. Last year was John Force. The year before was Shirley Muldowney. This year, we are excited to announce that everybody that has gone into the Hall of Fame this year, all of the Hall of Fame inductees are on the box. So we must give credit to Chuck, who is very famous right now, for helping with the pictures and the fact-checking, but all of our 2024 International Drag Racing Hall of Fame inductees are on the boxes. So we're going to auction them away. There is also a cooler. Last year, we did a cooler for the very first time. Everybody was stoked by the cooler. You have a poolside party. You got to load it with beer. It is amazing. It was donated by JW and Kim. Cooler is designed by Chuck. Pinstriping done by Luke Scallon, the owner of Scallon Artistry, located right here or down south in Ocala, Florida. And finally, there is some artwork. Chris Ellis. This guy worked paint and body just like so many of us out there. How many paint and body guys do we got out there started as drag racers? And you know that's very tough dealing with the insurance company. So he's going to become a fine artist. These are airbrushed on aluminum. It is amazing. If you get up close and personal, you're definitely going to love them. And so they'll look great in your house. The painting is of Don's 1967 first 6-second pass. So it is a historical painting. And after the pass, he shaved his beard. We remember that in Indy. In fact, NHRA on Fox's Brian Loans grew his beard to commemorate that moment years ago and never shaved it off. Maybe he needs to run 6 seconds. It's very cool. And there's a painting of Scott Coletta in his first funny car run in Houston. You can note the detail of the Coletta Air machine in the background and Connie standing by the funny car. They are all over there. Normally we bring them on stage, but last year, if you were here, we had a catastrophe and one of the toolboxes rolled off the back of the stage. So we said, let's not do that anymore. We'll put them on over there. Chuck, wave your arms. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Chuck over there. We're going to start off with the cooler. We decided that the cooler is a great way to get everybody warmed up and get fired up to bring something home that is going to commemorate the 2024 International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. Who's ready out there? Donna, you're doing a great job, but we need more energy. All right, Chuck, show me that cooler, baby. Show me the cooler. Look at that. He's doing his best Vanna White, and we know why he works at the museum now. That's fine. Let's start off the cooler at $200. Who's in for $200 on that cooler? All right, we got this gentleman, $200. Do I hear $300? $300. Got $300 back there. Do I hear $500? Give me $500 right there. How about $700 for that incredible cooler? $700 for the cooler. This guy wants it. You saw it. It's cool. $700 going to the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. 900, your hands up. I'm saying 900. $900. 1,000. Do I have 1,000? We got 1,000 right there. 1,200. Do I have 1,200? This guy's in for 1,200. We're raising money here, folks. This is what's up. Do I have 1,300? 12.5. That's a small increment. 12.5. 12.5 it is. All right, let's go. Do I have 1,500? Who's in for 1,500? Last year it went for $1,800, folks. This year's like nicer. Do I have $1,300? 1,300, way back there. I need a big arm wave, sir, but I got you. 1,300. 14. Do we see 14? Get in for 14, guys. Who's in for 14? I got $1,300 going once. I got $1,300 going twice. So I got 1,400. Anyone 1,400? $1,300. That gentleman back there. That's it. We're moving. Stand up, sir.
Chuck, $1,300 for the cooler.
All right, next up, we're doing the artwork. Let's do the Garlits painting first. Scott Coletta's going into the hall tonight. It's going to be amazing. So we'll let him be last. But look at that painting. You're seeing it up on the screen. You're not seeing it up on the screen. We're seeing it. You're seeing me. Now you're seeing the painting. Look at that. All right. Let's start off at, what do you say? 500. Still me. There it is. Now it is. It's going back and forth. It's vacillating. Let's start $250 for the painting. Who's in on this? $250 for the Garlits painting. Raise your hand. The artist is Chris Ellis of Chris Ellis Signs and Custom Painting. My apologies if we did not get there, sir. He's got a whole display out here just by the Hawthorne room, and there are prints available, but not these. So you definitely want to get in. All right, $250 for the Garlits artwork. Who's in for $250? Who's in for $250? Thank you very much, Brian Karate. Saving the day. How about $300? $300 for the Garlits artwork. I don't see it, Chuck. I see you pointing. We got $300 down south right here. $300. Do I have $350? Do I have $350 for the Garlits sign? I don't see it, Chuck. I got bright light in my face. Sir, stand up. Wave your arms. $350. Who's in? $350. Yeah. All right, right in front of me. Oh, okay, I got you now. Yeah, tough to see you. That's fine. All right, we got $350 right there. $400. We in on $400. Who can do better than $350? Raising money for Garlits Hall of Fame. $400. We got $350 going once. We got $400. Smart move, sir. It's beautiful artwork. $500. We're going up big. We're going at $500. Do we have $550? $550. Who wants to get in on it? $500 going once. $500 going twice. Chris Ellis. Yeah, $550. You want to go to $6. That's the way to do it, brother. $600. How about $7? Can we go up by $100? Let's get this thing going. $700. Your race room, your artwork, your trailer. $7. We got $700 back in. Now it's a fight. Do we have $750? Do we have $8? Do we have $750? Who's in on $750? Sir, you can't let him take it from you. All right, we got $750. Do we have $8? He's checking with the wife. That's a smart play. That's a smart play. It's only $50 we're talking about. You might as well make it interesting. Are you in for $8? $750 going once? $800. That's how pressure works, folks. This is a pressure campaign, and we're working it. Okay, $850. We have $850. It's ratcheting it up. $850. This guy's not playing around. Do we have $9? $900. I hear it, but I don't see it. I need $900. Who's in on it? We got $850 going once. We got $850 going twice. Sold to that man over there. Stand up. Stand up. $850. We're raising money for the International Drag Racing Hall. $850, Chuck. It's over there. No, Chuck and I last year, we were like, how much did they This year, we're not going to make that mistake again. All right, now we're doing the other one. Scott Coletta's first funny car run at Houston. Coletta Air 747 in the background. Conrad in the painting. Look at that thing. Is it up on the... Look at that. It is amazing. It's on metal. It's airbrushed. It's incredible. You know, Scott Coletta, guys, let's start it off at $500. Who's in? $500. Scott Coletta, thank you very much. Jimmo, smart move. Do I have 600? 6. Do I have 7? I have a feeling it's going to go from this side. I just got this feeling, right? We got 7. Do I have 8? Can someone ready to go up to $1,000? Let's go to 1,000. Let's make a big move. Thank you, sir. $1,000. How about 1,100? Who's going to keep it going? 1,100. Scott Coletta, one-of-a-kind artwork. Jimmo, smart move. How about 1,200? Let's keep going. 1,200. This side of the room, are you going to let them beat you down? Somebody get in on this. $1,200. Scott Coletta, first funny car run. Chris Ellis, custom signs. We got 1,100. Do we have $1,200? Who's in? 1,200. 1,100 going once. 1,100 going twice. $1,200, Rick Fisher. He's not going to let it go that cheap. Rick Fisher. 1,300. Get it back, Jimmo. Come on, you can't let Fisher do that to you. 1,300. I like it. I like it. Rick, 1,400. You in on it? Yeah, look at him. This is Alpha Dogs now. This has nothing to do with raising money. What'd you say? It's at 1,300. $2,000. That's the right play. That's the right thing to do, Rick. All right, Jimmo. 2,000 going once. You going to get in this game? Come on, man. Rick, where? Like, we know you're doing well. Maybe somebody else wants to get in on it. It's 2,100 or higher. $2,001. 2,000 going once to Mr. Fisher. 2,000 going twice. Sold Rick Fisher, $2,000. Beautiful. Scott Coletta artwork. We got to get the show on the road. We got coolers. Way to go, Rick. Thank you very much. Chuck, $2,000, Rick Fisher. All right. Now it is time for the toolboxes. Let's do the Garlits one first, and we'll do the Hall of Fame inductees second. Chuck, do you endorse that decision? Just don't roll it off the back of the stage. Yeah. Okay, look at this thing. Garlits and Malone, beautiful and incredible artwork. Once again, JW and Kim working so hard to put this thing together. This is an incredible toolbox. You can use it. You can use it as a piece of artwork, put your alcohol or all your contraband inside that, whatever you want to do. It is a beautiful piece of artwork. Let's start it off at $500. Who's in for the toolbox? That's like less than the price of the toolbox. But who wants to go out there for $500? Get in on this. Yes, sir, my man. All right, we got 500. How about $1,000? That's the way to jump it up. Who jumped in on 1,000? Who was that? That was you? All right, 1,500. 1,200. What do you guys? You guys are like doing a democracy over there. Rob Flynn, 1,200. Rob, 1,200. What are you saying? That Mike Salinas doesn't pay you well? Is that what you're saying? Like, I wouldn't do that, man. You should get in on it. I'm kidding, Mike. It's a joke. 1,500, that's what I like to hear. We got 1,500 on the Garlits toolbox. Check that thing out. How about 1,600? Who wants to get in on this? 1,600. We're raising money for next year's show and the Don Garlits Museum of Drag Racing. We got 1,500 going once. 1,600. Smart play. 16. Do I have 17? 1,700 out there. 1,700. 1,800. I hate going up by $100, guys, but I'm doing it. Do I have 18? I got 17. Do I have 18? Give me 18. Who's got 18 out there? 1,700 going once. You can't let this thing go for 1,700. $1,700 going twice. You're right, Donna. You're right. It should definitely be 2,000. But we got 1,700 on the board. 1,700 going once. 1,700 going twice. I'm going to ring it up. $1,700. The gentleman in the white. Thank you, sir. We got to move. We got to move. Got to get the show on the road. And now, the 2024 International Drag Racing Hall of Fame inductees. Check this thing out. Look at Chuck over there. He's going to roll it right in front of everybody. This is a beautiful toolbox. So much work, so much effort. Keith Faulkner, LN Signs, located in Ocala. Same deal. We're going to start it off at $500. But look at that. Bill Holland, former national dragster, at $500. This guy's getting in on it. He wants to get the show on the road. All right. 700. I like where your head's at. I like your hair. All right, 700. Do I have 1,000? Give me get 1,000. $1,000. 2,000? Nice. That's how it goes. We got $2,000 on the board. We have $3,000 on the board. Now we're moving. The alcohol is working. $3,000. Can we get 3,500? Can we get 3,500? Give me 3,500 out there. You know you want in. 3,500. We got 3,000 going once. 3,000 going. 3,500. Smart play. You got 4,000. That's Tricky Ricky Smith under that hat. Says $4,000. And you know Tricky Ricky is on the toolbox. And you also know that that thing's going to have real tools in it if Ricky buys it. It's going to be a real working toolbox. All right, we got $4,000, Ricky. You're in for 4. Do we have 4,500? Ricky Smith, 4,000 going once. Ricky Smith, 4,000 going twice. Yes. Are you 4,500? 4,500? That's Matt Smith. We got $5,000 right here. Oh, we got a little cluster right now. $5,000. You're at 5, he's at 5. You're at 55. Matt Smith, 5,500. Ricky, you want back in? $6,000. The number 6. We're going up at 5. He's at 5,500. Are you good for 6? $6,000. Matt, $6,000. This gentleman right here, he wants a toolbox with your dad's mug on it. $6,000. This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. 6,000 going once. 6,500. Sir? Matt Smith wants his dad's toolbox. Can you go 7? This is for the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. It's for the best possible charity. $7,000. This gentleman's in for $7,000. Anybody out there, you guys can play too. It's 7, right? He's in for 7. That's $7,500, Matt. Can you do it? He's jumping up to $8,000. Sir? $10,000. Can you do 10.5, Matt Smith? Can you do 11, Matt Smith? Can you wow us, Matt Smith? This guy wants 10 grand. What's the number? 10.5? 10.5. He's going up by $500 increments. This is where you put him away, sir. What's the number? Can you do 11? 11 grand. He's got it for 10.5. You can do 11. This guy's doing 11. We're inching up. You got to go 11.5. $11,000 going once. $11,000. 11.5. You said it so softly. Can you go 12? He's got it at 11.5. You're going 12. He's going 12. We got this eye contact thing going, right? We're inching on up there. This is a once-in-a-lifetime Hall of Fame, the first time ever. JW, first time ever of all the Hall of Fame inductees, as far as I understand it. All right? He's got 12 on the board. I don't know what that means. $15,000. All right. Sir, 15, 16, 15.5. Can you do 15.5? 15.5. We got a, nobody else wants to be a part of this. 15.5. Yeah, now you're in trouble. Matt just talked to Angie. What's the number, Matt? He's got it for 15. 16. Sir, 16. 16,000 going once. 16,000 going twice. Last chance. Sold. Matt Smith. $16,000. Way to go, Ange. That was good. That was good. All right, ladies and gentlemen. How fun was that? I want to thank you all. Here's the deal, guys. We've got great inductees, we've got great presenters, and we've got ourselves a great show. If you've been with us at the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame over the past couple of years, you know that it is our #1 goal to honor the Hall of Famers and their families and everybody in the house that has supported them. We've got a live audience watching on Flow Sports and CompetitionPlus.com starting in about 1 minute. So I'd like to ask Mr. Mike Booker to join me on stage. Mike has started our International Drag Racing Hall of Fame ceremonies for the past several years. Mike is a pastor. He is also a top fuel racer, and he is beloved in the pit area. We love this guy. He does a great job, and we just want to make sure that we are right at the top of the hour so that we can start off this Flow Sports. But
An American creation that has been exported around the world. A race of acceleration that puts the men and women who compete to the ultimate test. And when one of those competitors leaves their mark on the sport and truly achieves greatness, the Hall of Fame awaits. This is the 2024 International Drag Racing Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony.
You are now live in Gainesville, Florida for the 2024 International Drag Racing Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony. My name is Joe Costello, part of the NHRA track announcing team, and tonight we are going to meet the 2024 inductees. I know we've got an audience listening and watching around the world on Flow Sports and Competition Plus. You are locked in to the world's greatest drag racers. We're going to induct them into drag racing immortality, and it all happens because of one of the greatest legends in all of motorsport and perhaps all of sport in general. We're talking about Don Garlits, our host. Don Garlits, a pioneer of the sport of drag racing, innovated the ultimate safety innovation that saved the lives of so many drivers. We're talking about the rear-engine dragster, but also made the unbelievable performance numbers that we've seen over the years possible. A man who broke 270 miles per hour right here in Gainesville, Florida, years ago with Swamp Rat 30, has continued to innovate well into his 90s. One of his greatest creations, however, the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame, a place where we can recognize pioneers not just from the United States and not just from North America, but the entire world of drag racers. Drag racing, a sport built on acceleration, more importantly, built on hard work. The hard work of individuals, of teams, and probably most importantly, the families who sacrifice as the drag racer goes out over the road and as the drag racer spends the long, lonely nights on the highway chasing speed, chasing glory, and hopefully chasing a little money along the way. Ladies and gentlemen, we aim to have a good time tonight, to have fun, and honor the folks that came before us as we get ready for the Amalie Motor Oil NHRA Gator Nationals. But what we need is some big energy from you folks, so let me know, how's everybody doing out there tonight? I am excited as well. You know we've got a raucous crowd. We've got a great bunch of inductees, and we're going to have ourselves a great time. So let's get this party started. Your host, Big Daddy, is going to introduce each of our inductees and the people that will be putting them in the hall, and the first one is a big one. Let's check out the screen. Mr. Big Daddy, Don Garlits.
In 1962, when Scott Coletta was a little kid playing around this car, like my little girls were playing around me at Swamp Rat 4, little did anybody realize what a wonderful racer he would turn into. And this was the car that Scotty came over and said, "Don, would you drive my car? I want to hear how it sounds." I jumped in this car and set the world record, and that's where the Big Daddy name came from. But Scott Coletta was just a little tyke, and who would ever believe that he would have turned into the championship racer that he did? He became one of the fastest guys in dragsters and funny cars. He could do just about anything. He had a heart of gold. He was one of the nicest guys I ever met, so quiet and unassuming. He wasn't quite the big mean guy that Connie was. And here's a good picture that just about emphasizes what Connie was back in those days. That is a perfect look for Connie Coletta. And that's what when he came over and asked me to drive his car in '62. Presenting Scott Coletta is Nikki Bonafonte.
Yeah, I'd like to thank number one, Don Garlits, for having us all here tonight to induct Scott into the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. I want to bring up the crew off Scott's car when Scott won his 2 championships in 1994 and 1995. I was part of that team. we're still out here racing, so that's pretty awesome. I'd like to have Jim Oberhofer and John Oberhofer and Donnie Bender come on up here with me. We got some stories we want to tell you guys. So basically, number one, I want to thank Connie Coletta, because without Connie Coletta, I would definitely not be up here, and Scott wouldn't be inducted in the Hall of Fame. He's an incredible person. Because of Connie, we're all here, and you know, obviously, Coletta Motorsports is still out there. I mean, racing the NHRA, out there winning drag races, and you know, Connie helped. He helped me, and Scott was one of my best friends out here. So when Scott and I got to be friends, we hooked up one night back in 1986, and we I don't know, somehow we bonded, and I wound up working for him for a lot of years, and to be part of his championships teams and watch him grow as a person, and be a family man, raise his two sons, Colin, Corey. I mean, those guys are great, and obviously they're part of Connie's business. Dougie's out here. He won the championship last year. Outstanding year. So, the Coletta family is obviously drag racing, and to be able to have Scott inducted into this Hall of Fame, it finally happened. And for all of us, it means a lot. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you what it means to Jimmo and Jono and Donnie. So, basically, I definitely want to, talk about, Scott and Connie, how they took care of our people. Like Connie was like a dad to me, and he was like a dad to all of us, and Scott was like our brother. So we were like a big family, and when Scott called all of us and he said, "Hey guys," he said, "the old man, he hired Dicko." And we're like, "What? What'd he do?" He says, "Yeah, he hired Dick LaHaye, and we're going to go race for the championship." And we're like, really? Like, haven't we been through this before? Like, didn't we hire Frank Bradley and that lasted like 2 weeks or something? Like, so like we all left jobs that we were at because we weren't sure we were going to race. And to make a long story short, we came back to Coletta Motorsports because we were a family, and we were part of Scott's family. And that's why these guys are standing behind me, because we're all part of the Coletta family. Whether we work there or we don't now, we love Connie Coletta, we love Scott Coletta, we love Doug Coletta, and we're part of the Coletta family. And with that, like, what I'd like to do is tell some stories. So we got like a quick bunch of stories, because Joe said we only got 12 minutes. So to me, that means like 22 or something. So first, I'd like to have Jimmo. Jimmo's got a real good story. I'd like to have him come up here and tell a story about Scott. And then Jono, Donnie, and myself, we all have stories. But I think you guys will enjoy this. And, it's drag racing, and it's about the Coletta family. So there you go.
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is, thank you to, Big Daddy Don Gartlitz and the whole Hall of Fame for inducting our boy Scott Coletta in there. And Conrad, I tell you what, Scott, he was something, and he was our big brother. He was everything to us in the world. And one of the funny things, I want to talk a little bit about Scott's competitiveness. He was such a competitive person, and we used to joke, man, if you played tiddlywinks with Scott Coletta, he was going to draw blood on you somehow, some way. And I'll never forget, it was back in 1994. Connie had come back racing, and Tim Richards was Connie's crew chief, and Dick LaHaye was Scott's crew chief. And my wife, my late wife, Tammy O, she was the PR person. And what they used to do back then with the old hero cards, it was always about getting a picture of Connie and Scott running side by side. And that was a challenge in itself to try to get them to run side by side. So somehow in Houston it worked out because Timmy and Dicko, they're like, this is when we're running, and if we end up side by side, that's the way it is. So anyway, we go up and we make this run during qualifying, and they make this run. Well, Connie happens to tattoo Scott on the starting line. So the picture that they had, and my wife has this picture of Connie and Scott racing, and Scott's in the right-hand lane, Connie's in the left-hand lane. Boom, Connie's out there. So Tammy gets the hero card done, you know, and gets a proof of it, and she shows it to Scott because Scott approved everything. And Scott's looking at it, and he goes, Tammy, I need you to do something. And she's like, what? Is there any way to move my car in front of Connie's car? And she's like, well, I don't know. She goes, come on, can you check on that, please? You can do that. And of course, she's like, okay, Scott, you know, anything for you. So next thing you know, she comes back and she's got this picture of Scott in front of Connie. Well, of course, I'm kind of getting wind of what's going on, and Tammy was like, don't you dare say anything to anybody about this, right? So anyway, we had these hero cards out there, and Scott was really happy. He was out in front of his dad because anytime he raced his dad, it was like competitive as hell. And so we never said anything about these pictures, and years later, I told Connie that story. I don't know if he remembers it or not, but you know, he got a good laugh out of it. And then talking about Scott's, you know, competitiveness, when he raced his cousin Dougie, he was on it. Now, Scott was, in my opinion, one of the greatest drivers ever, in my opinion. He was the baddest dude there was. And he always cut good lights, always this. But boy, when he raced his cousin Dougie, he was up on it. And he would go out there, and he would always tend to leave on Dougie. Dougie could go out and have a 039 light. Scott would have an 029 light. So I'm catching on to this real quick, you know, as I'm Scott's crew chief back in the mid-2000s, and we would get the ladder sheets. And the ladder sheet came, and it showed that, you know, we would race whoever, right? And so I would always take whoever we were racing, and I'd white it out, and I'd put Doug Coletta. And Scott would come in, he goes, who are we racing? And I go, Doug. And he goes, no, we're not. And I go, yeah, we are. We're racing Doug. No, we're not racing Doug. And I go, no, we are racing Doug. And so this went on, and he goes, why are you doing this? And I said, because every time you race Dougie, you have like the most unbelievable lights I've ever seen in my life. So that's I wanted to share a little bit about that, about Scott's competitiveness, because he definitely was a competitive person. So thank you.
My story is four of us all started before Connie started getting 747s. And so when he got the 747s, he had to stop the racing for 6 or 8 months. So he told us we could either work in the airlines or go work on the race team. And I was kind of just stuck there. So I said, yeah, I'll go in the airlines. So every time they needed something done or whatever, work on a piece of equipment or whatever, I'd help them or whatever. But Scott, he always loved pranking everybody, especially me. So he'd call me up and have me go do something, and oh, no, I'm just messing with you. So one day he called, and on the plane, they had these big pallets they put in there, and they haul cattle across the world and all that. So he called me up and says, hey, we got to get one of the 8s and get all that pallets in there. And I knew he was kind of messing with me. I said, okay, I'll get it handled. So he called back a couple hours. He says, hey, you get that all done? I said, yeah. So I told him I got John Stokes, a couple of other guys from the airlines to help me do it. And he goes, oh, shit, my dad's going to kill us. We can't do that. I'm just messing with you. And so, but he loved messing with people, I can tell you that. And I was his favorite a lot of times. But, oh no, we had such a great time with Scott, and yeah, we all sure do miss him.
I got some talking points. For me, Scott was more about there's three phases of Scott. You know, you got Scott teammate, Scott the champion, you know, and Scott the friend. You know, Scott the friend for me signed my marriage license for me. Teammate, you couldn't have a better teammate. He was fiercely loyal and a teammate. And one of the stories, when Dougie was driving and Scott came back doing the dragster, you know, we had to make decisions, you know, on the car, and Scott's car was running first. So it's like we didn't know if it was going to work. You know, Connie loaded the thing up and goes out and smokes the tires, but we said, you know, hey Scott, we need time. If it doesn't work on your car, we need time to change it on Dougie's car. He goes, don't worry about it. And so goes out, smokes the tires. Miraculously, the thing was locked up in the middle of the track. You know, they're dragging him off. He's dragging the brake. You know, so we had enough time to make the changes. I go to the airport the next day. I see Tim Richards and Kim Richards. And they look at me. I know what you did. And I go, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, Kim was right. And, you know, she was pretty mad about the whole thing, but I think she'd be happy about it now, you know. And Scott the champion, you know, he's got 2 gold trophies and a bunch of Wallies, you know, and he's just one of the most badass drivers that there ever was, like everybody up here has said, you know. And there's one guy here tonight that looks exactly like him, and that's his son, Colin, over there, and he doesn't like to talk, and he's a world traveler. We know that, you know. Like I said, both the boys, they work for the company. I'm just so proud of them to see the young men they are, and that's all I got to say. And then now it's back to you, or Jim.
Well, so now we get to bring up Colin, Corey, Kathy. You guys come on up here. We want to honor Scott right now, and you guys don't have to say anything unless you want to. So, but we loved your dad, and we're so proud of him, and I know you guys are. I know Kathy is. And like I said earlier, like this is part of Connie's family. So, you know, we want to present this, we want to induct Scott into this Hall of Fame. And we thank, again, we thank Don Gartlitz and the Hall of Fame for voting Scott in here because he deserves it. And with that, I'd like to give these guys the trophy and thank you. Thank you so much.
Just like to say, on behalf of the Clutter family, Clutter Motorsports, thank you to Don Garlitz for this tremendous honor. I know my dad would be extremely proud and honored to be a Hall of Fame inductee. Thank you.
You know, I don't have many heroes. I wasn't a hero worshiper, but as a kid, I loved Gene Autry, later Chuck Yeager, and of course my Uncle Jake, who fought in the European theater during World War II. But modern now in drag racing, I do have a few heroes. Right off the bat, John Force comes to mind. He's a guy that's done a lot. Emery Cook, he's passed away. But Connie Coletta holds a special place in my heart. He is one of the true heroes in drag racing. He is absolutely a fearless daredevil. And tonight, the Hall of Fame wants to give him a Lifetime Achievement Award for his years and years of service to drag racing. When he was 17 years old, his heart was in drag racing. Everything he did was about drag racing. And he had a little gas dragster. He used to stay at my house in the winter. I stayed at his house in the summer. He has never lost that passion for drag racing, even today. He is one of the driving forces in the sport. His money, his expertise keeps drag racing what it is today that we all enjoy. So I think it's very fitting that we bestow upon him the Lifetime Achievement Award for his dedication to the sport of drag racing. Connie Coletta.
Ladies and gentlemen, Connie Coletta. He is flanked by Mr. Big Daddy Don Garlitz. Don is right with Connie. Tremendous moment. And ladies and gentlemen, Don is having a little laryngitis issue, so he has given me notes. I'd like to read those notes to you right now. Here's the Lifetime Achievement. Ladies and gentlemen, the words of Don Garlitz. I thought that this year we would start honoring persons that have made drag racing their life and still managed to be successful in other fields. Connie is just such a person. He has been involved in drag racing his entire life and created a very successful air freight company, Coletta Air. He is the epitome of the American dream. He built Coletta Air from a single-engine Cessna, flying parts for Ford in the Midwest. I know, I saw it with my own eyes. From that meager little Cessna to the largest fleet of 747s on the planet, and the lease of complete Willow Run Airport speaks volumes of this man's talent and his drive to be successful. Connie is also a daredevil, completely fearless, and at one time would fly anything, anywhere. I could go on, but it gives me great pleasure to present Connie with the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame Lifetime Achievement Award. Ladies and gentlemen, the words of Big Daddy Don Garlitz. We're here with the championship team owner, the Lifetime Achievement Award winner. Connie, what do you think of all of this?
It's awesome, and it brings tears.
To be able to be here with Garlitz, I know you guys spent time together recently, and you guys made the sport what it is. I think on behalf of everyone here, thank you.
You're welcome. We appreciate it, both him and I.
More to come from the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame.
Coming up next, 2024 inductee Gary Sutton, and we'll reveal the Pat Garlitz Memorial Award winners. Right now, we'd like to take a moment to thank some of the sponsors who have been with the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame, including Summit Racing Equipment for over 20 years, National Parts Depot since 2004, and the Drag Racing Association of Women. Thank you for your support of the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame.
AMSOIL runs on freedom and has since 1972. We changed the industry by formulating the first API-qualified 100% synthetic motor oil. The rest of the market has been trying to follow our lead ever since. But a head start is a head start. We punish our products firsthand in our world-class laboratories and beyond. Because some things can't be learned from a test tube. Run with us.
Think of any repair where you need to have both hands free and have a work light inches from what you need to see. Well, now you can have awesome targeted illumination with Goose Grip work lights. Goose Grip lights allows you to work hands-free and stress-free with this thin and flexible design. With these work lights in your arsenal of equipment, you will eliminate light frustration that mechanics experience every day. That's Goose Grip Innovative Lights.
Welcome back to the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. we have started off with a bang. Connie Coletta, Lifetime Achievement Award. Shirley Muldowney receiving her 1977 World Championship trophy, and it's only going to get better and better. But right now, we want to do something we do every single year and recognize the Hall of Famers that are in attendance. We already saw Big Daddy and Connie Coletta, but when I say your name, please stand up, and ladies and gentlemen, give these folks a big round of applause. First of all, I want to recognize, he is not in attendance, but Mr. Scotty Cannon. Last year, 1 year after he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, we accidentally omitted Scotty. And so, Scotty, I know you're out there. We love you. We appreciate you. We apologize dearly for omitting you last year. He was over in the corner going, man, it only took 1 year for them to forget about me, but we're going to recognize you this year. All right, how about Bruce Larson? Where's Bruce? Bruce, there he is. I apologize for having a ride with Dobson the other day, Bruce. What are you going to do? Ray Motes, where's Ray? There's Ray. Ray telling me a great story. Excellent. Steve Gibbs. Steve got the great job of giving the trophy. Mr. Jack Doyle. Jack, where's Jack? Thank you very much. Jack is back there. Dennis Holding. Dennis. Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate you. Ted Jones. Where's Ted? Ted's back there making it happen. There's Ted. Hey, Ted, thank you for the effort to come down. Ted Jones doing a great job. Steve Earwood. Where's Steve? Steve is a helper, excuse me. Shirley Muldowney. We already got to hang out with Shirley. Really appreciate that. Jim Walther. Jim. Where's Jim? Excellent. Herm Peterson. Herm's in the house back there. Roy Hill. I know Roy is back there somewhere. Come on, Roy. Where are you at? And Roy, thank you very much for supporting the glasses and everything that people get here. Mr. Mike Lewis. You in the house, Mike? Mike making a big final round, top alcohol dragster last year. We need another round win, though, Mike. This is the year, Mike. Make it happen. Dave Bortman. Where's Dave? Dave. Stand up, Dave. And I don't know if John is in the house. John Force, you here? Way to go, Force. Thank you very much. And I do want to recognize a couple of Founders Award winners. Steve Earwood, Dave Densmore, of course, really appreciate you guys. And Pat Garlett's award winners, Pat Baltus. Pat, where you at? Pat, thank you so much for all you have done over the years. Just a tremendous investment of your time and emotion in the sport of drag racing. All right, let's keep on trucking. Our next inductee, Mr. Big Daddy Don Garlitz, is going to tell you who.
Pat Garlitz. Oh, the sweet thing. I miss her every day. Very fitting that she would have an award to give to deserving people in the sport who've done so much for drag racing, but, didn't drive fuel dragsters, didn't run drag strips. The behind-the-scenes people. And Terry and Rosalie Noble is one of these people. These people have dedicated their lives to draw the organization that helps these racers that get into trouble and don't have any money. I don't have any idea how many millions of dollars they have gathered up for these people to make their lives a little better during these hard times. So it's very fitting tonight that the Pat Garlitz Award go to these two lovely people. Here's Warren Evans to present their award.
Good evening. I'm honored to be here tonight to share a few thoughts about a wonderful couple that has been there for my family and our collective drag racing family for almost 4 decades, and to recognize them as this year's recipients of the Pat Garlitz Memorial Award. For all of us, there have been events in our lifetimes that have affected our trajectory in life. Many times, that event is something devastating or tragic, something that shifts the spotlight and focuses people as a call to action. In our sport, one such event was the high-speed accident that seriously injured Shirley Muldowney 40 years ago. Her injuries were severe. Her road to recovery would be extensive. The racing community recognized the need that was upon them, and that event became the genesis of DRAW, the Drag Racing Association of Women. Pat Garlitz was one of 8 women that banded together and spearheaded a successful fundraising effort on Shirley's behalf. But along with that, it also became apparent that there were financial, emotional, and support needs in the racing community that would still be there after the spotlight faded. Draw could be instrumental in meeting that challenge, but it would take dedicated, sustained commitment of good people willing to give of their time, talent, and resources to keep the organization moving forward. My entire family has been blessed to have two of the best of those people as part of our lives for well over 35 years. Of course, I'm referring to Rosalie and Terry Noble. I first met Rosalie after noticing a Gator Nationals parking sticker on a car at my work parking lot, which led me to track down this mutual drag racing fan that worked in the same building. As it turns out, we would also wind up spending a lot of weekends at our home track, Coles County Dragway in central Illinois. My mother, Minerva, would become friends with Rosalie, and over time, Mom would use her sewing skills to create teddy bears for Draw. They're named Ward. They have been hand-delivered to literally hundreds of injured racers across the country. A teddy bear may not seem like much, but if you're a racer, maybe in a hospital bed in some remote town, Ward Bear may be bring that comfort that you need to know that someone out there cares. Unfortunately, in 1997, our family would soon experience firsthand what it was like to be on the receiving end of that kindness, as my father, Ray Evans, was critically injured in his own high-speed accident at our home track. His severed spinal cord rendered him permanently paralyzed and quadriplegic. Our entire family's lives were changed forever, but one thing that was a constant throughout that change was the immediate comfort and compassion from Rosalie and Terry and Draw. They were the very first people to the hospital after the accident. They were there to support us whenever we needed it. 51 weeks in the hospital, all the way through Dad's final 3.5 years of his life. As I said in the beginning, a single event may draw the spotlight and call people to action. It takes good people with the right intentions to keep that dream moving forward once the spotlight fades. Rosalie and Terry have done more than their share in that service. As regular fixtures on the midway at NHRA national events, along with their behind-the-scenes work to raise money and awareness for the organization, even as the need may not be apparent and nobody's watching. Draw would not be where it is today without Rosalie and Terry and their fellow volunteers. Draw's motto is fast help for fast friends, but I'm here to suggest our community is better because of great help from even greater friends, Rosalie and Terry Noble, recipients of the Pat Garlitz Memorial Award. As many of you know, Rosalie has had some health challenges and cannot be with us tonight, but we had the opportunity to put together a few remarks in advance. So here, in her own words, is my very good friend, Rosalie Noble.
Needless to say, we were quite surprised when we received the phone call Labor Day weekend from Dawn saying that we were receiving the Pat Garlitz Memorial Award. Pat was a special person to us because we worked very hard to keep the dream that she and Jerry Amato, Peggy Beck, Holly Beadle, Laurie Irwood, Etta Glidden, Diane Hedrick, Linda McCullough, Lynn Padone, and Janie Oswald had 38 years ago. Now, when Shirley had her accident back in 1985, they thought it would be a good idea to do a fundraiser to help with her expenses. Well, that fundraiser was very successful. And they thought, well, if they're willing to help just one racer, would not the racing community be willing to help them all? And therefore, the vision of DRAW, the Drag Racing Association of Women, was born. Now, in 38 years, DRAW has provided over $5.5 million to 1,013 injured racers, drivers, and crew members. DRAW has always been close to our hearts. I got involved in draw the first time I ever went to a national event. Well, Terry's always went to the U.S. Nationals, and after I always graduated from high school, I decided that I wanted to go too. And so the first time I went, I ran onto this organization called Draw. And I went to their first meeting, and I was hooked. And so from then on, I would go to the races with Terry, and I'd hang out in the draw booth. And Terry would hang out in the pits, and along with doing a radio program for the local radio station. And so by then, Coles County had opened up again, and they were running bracket cars. And I thought, well, to get my racers out there interested and supportive, I needed to be a racer. So the year I turned 50, I went and brought a Buick LeSabre station wagon, and we painted pink bears on the side of it and called it the Care Wagon. And I went drag racing. And so I raced every weekend and did pretty good. I won a couple of track championships. I raced that for 30 years and had to give it up 2 years ago when I injured my shoulder. And so it's now the Care Wagon, but it's still out at Coles County, and it's being seen in the other areas. I first started out just being a volunteer. They were selling raffle tickets out of a little booth that looked like a ice cream stand, and they were raising money to help injured racers. And I thought that was pretty interesting, and I needed something to occupy my time, and so I would go hang out with them. And that became a very, very compelling thing. You know, it was like, yeah, this I have to do. And then when Terry and I both retired, Draw by then had grown into more than a ladies' social club. We had become a vital part of NHRA and the drag racing community. Even though we helped all drag racers, it didn't matter whether it was NHRA, IHRA, as long as it was an official drag racing event. And so we got to helping in the booth a lot. And then I became a board member and an officer. And I'm still serving on the board. The year I was president, NHRA came to me and said, would you guys be interested in doing ladder sheets? Well, yeah, we would. So ladder sheets and qualifying sheets to the racers and the fans if they wanted it. Well, Terry at that time did not really have an official position. He just was hanging out here, there, and yonder. So after that, Terry became the qualifying and the ladder sheet guy. And so when we both retired, we started doing that full time. And so for a lot of years, we did every national event and became very well acquainted with a lot of the racers and fans. And I hate to say this is one thing that we're going to miss so much is because we won't be traveling for a while, because I had so much planned on being there this year. And, you know, as it happens, sometimes the spirit's willing, but the body isn't. Now, when they told us about this award, we were very thrilled, but then after thinking, I realized it wasn't just honoring our efforts to keep Draw alive, but it was honoring all the volunteers for the last 39 years that have kept this organization going strong, and hopefully it will continue to go strong in the future. And since 1985, we've helped 1,013 drivers, crew members, or their families, and have paid out over $5.5 million. I think that speaks well for the drag racing community as well as all the volunteers. And I just want to say thank you for your continued support of Draw. And we'll realize that 1,013 racers and families' lives have been made easier for what you've done over the years. And please continue to support the organization, and God bless.
So Rosalie is at home watching the live stream tonight, so it's a shame that she could not be here, but Terry is here, and Terry, if you could come up to the stage and join me. Terry Noble. Terry, let me take a moment here to just read what's on the award, the Pat Garlitz Memorial Award to Rosalie and Terry Noble for your devotion and professionalism to drag racing, draw, and your many other contributions. So on behalf of the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame, it's my honor to present that to you and to Rosalie.
I want to introduce to you our son who's helping me out.
I'm Rick. Hey, so Dad asked me to help him out a little bit. He said he was afraid he was going to come up and make a fool out of himself. I told him that you all were family. You'd probably walked by the draw booth. You'd seen him asleep. You'd seen him drooling on his T-shirt. You'd seen him spilling things, making a mess. You'd seen him fall down. He was not going to make a fool out of himself tonight. I think Mom summed it up. She is about draw. She's not one to make anything about her, but I'm very proud of the two of them. So I'm going to pass it on to him, and let's see what he can do.
I've had a lot of jobs, but this is the hardest job I've ever had. This is a great honor, but it's also a sad time. She's worked so hard for this, and after many weeks in the hospital, many weeks in the nursing home, she kept saying, this tonight is what put her back home. She said she was going to go to Gainesville, but due to dialysis now, it couldn't be. But I think her determined is what brought her home a couple of weeks ago. Today, right now, she's sitting in the living room watching this on television. Teresa Tilford, who did the 50-50 for draw for many years, a lot of you have participated in it. She has made an open house at home, and a lot of our racers and friends are in the house watching this on television. And I want you to know, all you people out here have put us here. And I want to thank all of you. How did you put us here? Your support to draw. As Rosalie said, those ladies had a dream, and it's carrying on. Keep it going, and keep your support going. Your support has been not only financial. Pick up a phone call somebody, send them a card, tell them you care, because we have personally found out what cards mean. So she has made my job easy. She said everything. She's always done our talking for us for 64 years. So about all that's left to say is thank you all for the many memories that you have bestowed on us. Thank you, Don, and thank Chuck for all the work he did. And I want to thank my friend Warren for doing that video and making Rosalie feel like she's part of this. So with that all said, all that's left to say is goodbye. God bless.
The Pat Garlitz Memorial Award winner, Rosalie Noble. We see you out there. We're there with you. There's a watch party going on. I'm sure they're going crazy in the house. Thank you very much. Standing ovation happening here. Thank you, Rosalie. Thank you for all you've done. And we appreciate what you've done, and you absolutely deserve to be in this International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. And Terry, you did a great job. Excellent, excellent work. Amazing moments going on here at the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. And I'm sure all of you, when you walked in, you noticed some differences here in 2024. Of course, all of Shirley's, Wally's everywhere, and just a lot of great artwork, and the Jungle Gym car out in front, just amazing. But also the Wynn's logos. You think about all that Wynn's was a part of drag racing for so many years, and we are proud to have the folks at Wynn's as a sponsor of the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame, beginning here in 2024. And now I'd like to welcome Antonio Sanchez Ortiz to the stage. Antonio, please come on up and address the crowd. We thank you so much for joining us and becoming a part of the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. You think about all the classic machines that have gone down the drag strip, and in the early years, Wynn's was a huge part of it, and now to have that Wynn's logo back, it is just amazing. Antonio, thank you so much.
Thank you. And first off, I want to start by congratulating all of tonight's inductees for all their contributions to motorsport and, more importantly, to the drag racing community. This year, Wynn's is celebrating our 85th anniversary since the launch of the product that started all friction proofing. As part of this milestone, we have been fortunate to rekindle our active presence in the drag racing community and foster a partnership with Don Garlett's Museum of Drag Racing to continue the amazing work they have been doing to preserve the history of the great sport, and we could not be more excited and proud. As our founders would say, the proof is in the performance, and tonight's inductees have proven themselves throughout their careers and long after. Tonight, their names are forever cemented in a sport that we all love. Congratulations, and keep on winning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Antonio. We appreciate your investment in the sport of drag racing, and in particular, the Don Garlett's Museum of Drag Racing. History of drag racing solidified for generations to come. And I know all of you are going to want to remember this night. The folks at Wright Trailers and Roy Hill's Drag Racing School have provided us Scotch glasses once again. We intended to put them at the table for you guys to get as you walked in, but we're going to need you to go to the Hawthorne room next door. It's right over there at the conclusion. Also, we have amazing t-shirts once again. So once it's all over, please head on over to the Hawthorne room and you will get your t-shirt, or you'll get your Scotch glass. T-shirts are available as well. And I've got myself quite a collection going as well. It's always fun on Scotch night. Once again, Antonio, thank you so much. We appreciate you and your investment in the sport of drag racing. We've got more to come here at the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. Those of you watching on Flow Sports and Competition Plus, we thank you. I also want to remind everybody that this broadcast will be on CBS Sports coming up in the coming weeks. And so be on the lookout. In fact, we'll give you the date and time before this show is over. But we've got more inductees to come. We got more Garlets, and that's all coming up after this from the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame.
When we return, more legends will be inducted into the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame presented by Wynn's, including a true mechanical pioneer, Walt Barbin. Time to honor more sponsors who have been with the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame, including Roy Hill's Drag Racing School. Roy has been supporting the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame since 2004. Masters Entertainment Group. Ted Jones, Linda Jones, and the entire Masters Entertainment Group who are putting on this broadcast as we speak. And Denswood Sports Marketing. We'll be back with more from the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame presented by Wynn's.
At Eagle Lights, we're off-road and motorsport enthusiasts at heart, and one of the largest aftermarket LED headlight manufacturers in the world. Manufacturing the highest quality LED headlights and motorcycle lights possible. At EagleLights.com, you can find the right size lights with the right connectors the first time without guessing, so you can buy and use Eagle Lights with confidence. Eagle Lights, finely crafted LED lighting solutions. See and be seen. Masters Entertainment Group is now offering live event streaming. Masters Entertainment Group's live streaming division can cover your event with a professional and experienced crew to give your event worldwide coverage. Basketball, drag racing, football, slot car racing, and everything in between. Masters Entertainment Group will have your event streaming worldwide at the push of a button. Don't miss out. Contact Masters Entertainment Group today.
The International Drag Racing Hall of Fame would like to take a moment to honor those pioneers who are no longer with us. Ohio George Montgomery. 2024 inductee Walt Austin. 2024 inductee Gary Southern. The man known as the Don, Don Schumacher. Paula Murphy. And Roland Leong, the Hawaiian. With a heavy heart, the sport forges forward. Thank you for your dedication to the sport of drag racing.
I met Gary Southern the day that I was putting on this wing on Swamp Rat 3 at Bud's Muffler. He was just a kid. He showed up and he was helping me. He said, "What are you going to do, Big Daddy?" I said, "I'm going to go out to the Winter Nationals." He says, "Can I go with you?" He did. He was a nice kid. We won that race, and Gary Southern was hooked. He drove Top Fuel dragsters for years and years and just recently retired. And I called him up on the phone. I said, "Gary, the selectors have put you in the Hall of Fame." He was so happy. 2 weeks later, he was dead. I tell you, it brings tears to my eyes, but at least he knew that they recognized his efforts and what he did for drag racing. Here's Chris and Mitch Southern to present the award.
So we just did a eulogy a couple months ago. My younger brother had a little tough time with that. So I took charge, but I got a feeling he's going to take charge of this one. For some reason, this one, I'm a little sentimental over this. But I'm only going to give a few minutes of stuff that were pretty interesting in my life. So I grew up at the track at 2 months old. My mother worked in the tower. So I was, I don't know, I think I was in a basket at 2 months. So I've been around it my entire life. Fortunately for me, my dad didn't put me into drag racing. He put me into other sports, thankfully. But I can tell you one thing. I'd like to thank my mom. She's watching right now. She couldn't make it tonight. And my sister, and I think her kids. Is some of yours there too? Kids, yeah. Yours. Oh. Are yours all here? Never mind. Okay. They're at home watching, and the stuff that my dad accomplished, and Garlitz said something a long time ago. He doesn't hear me. But he said there's heroes and there's legends. And I know for a fact that there are great baseball players that never won a World Series. So you don't have to be a world champion to be a great baseball player. Just ask Nolan Ryan. So one of the things I'd like to talk about is, got myself on a timer too. Yeah, I made sure I brought that. Is not only my dad drive everything that had wheels, but he loved the supercharger. He had an opportunity, and I just confirmed this, by the way, with Mom, to drive an Indy car like Danny Ungaius did back in the day, because my dad used to race against Ungaius. And he had a test session with Bobby Unser at Ontario Motor Speedway. And he turned it down, the contract, because I was 12, 10, 8, and 5, I believe it is. I don't know. So I didn't want to, okay, I was close. So anyways, he didn't want to leave us behind because we were a young family. So he stuck with drag racing.
Because it was
so much safer at that time.
Yeah, it was so much safer. One of the things I'd like to just say real quick is my dad, somebody stole all my information, put it in the magazine, but my dad was a double duty driver. For those who obviously know, you guys are all drag racers, so he drove an alcohol funny car and alcohol dragster in the same race. And I had to get on a motorcycle, be at the turnoff road, and he would come zooming down in the dragster, and as it was turning, the chutes weren't even completely dropped, and he was already climbing out of the car and it was moving, and he would jump on the motorcycle, and I don't know where the car was going, but the dragster would keep going, and we'd have to drive up to the top of the lane so he could get in the funny car because they're next. But that was some fun times, let me tell you. He did. What kind of, dude? I'm nailing this, so just relax. You'll have your turn.
Hey, we're having a good time here.
Okay. So I believe, well, Steve Gibbs could probably help me out, but I know it was the last front-engine top fuel car to ever qualify at the Winter Nationals, and I believe there was 26 cars. Okay, so I think they went 2 rounds in that one, when everybody else had rear-engine cars. I think for the fact that in the magazine it says that he's 70-plus blown cars in his lifetime, and not crashing or burning one down speaks for itself on his ability to drive a race car. There's a couple other things I'd like to say. I know it doesn't have to do with racing, but I think it has to do with his personality and his character. He's a world-class outdoorsman, meaning that he was a hunter and a fisherman. He loved fishing so much that they took the funny car to Brainerd, but he said he was going to take his boat, which was a bass boat, to Brainerd, Minnesota from Glendora, California, and take everybody fishing, because that's what he did when he didn't race. Imagine driving a bass boat to Brainerd.
Scared to eat beer to death.
Yeah. It was a 90-mile-an-hour bass boat, by the way. So I heard the Colettas talk about this, and I know because I was around them my entire life. They don't know me. I'm just some jackass that ran around the pits asking to wipe down the car. But they talked about a badass, and I'm going to tell you something right now. Growing up, that was a badass. He could, not only could he drive, but he could fight. Although, let me have 2 more seconds, dude, on this one. He did get so pissed off once that he threw his glove, and he was pissed off at the end of the track, and his wedding ring flew off in the glove, fell out of the glove at night at Irwindale Raceway, and nobody's ever found it. So his confidence, I'm pretty much finished here, but his confidence in driving is what I learned how to apply that towards sports, which I played. Watching his face and seeing how confident he was in what he did just made me really sure of myself. It was just awesome to watch. I think he ever got scared of the thing. And he drove 70-plus cars. Garlets, can you hear me? I'm going to tell, this is the last story. You ready for this? I'm trying to speak loud. I was 12 years old at the Winter Nationals, and you and Bud Heaton, my dad left me. He said he was going home. You're not going to remember this. I was 12 or 13, and I was crying in the staging lanes, okay? And you and Bud Heaton drove by. We lived in Glendora, which was only like 4 miles from the track, and you gave me a ride home. 53 years later, I want to thank you for the ride.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's still a little emotional. My dad, he unfortunately, he passed away in November. It was grateful that he had got the call from Don, and he knew he was inducted, and And I really kind of felt like once he knew he was inducted in the Hall of Fame, he said, my life's complete. And he was happy. He did. He was happy, man. I don't have all the comedic stuff as my brother, you know, but I got to work on some of these cars, and I got to be part of the pit crew, and you know, before I did some stupid stuff and got fired, but you know, I got to be a part of it, you know, and I want to thank Don Garlitz not only for putting this on, but Don Garlitz he lived in Florida. My dad lived in Southern California. We always called him my uncle Bud and my cousin Donnie because the Heatons were our family. We've known them since we were babies, and Bud Heaton and my dad and Don would always go to Bud Heaton's shop over there in West Covina, California, and throughout the years, you know, Don he's a legend of the sport, and my dad was, not well known, and Don always treated him like a friend. He always, every time we'd see, as a matter of fact, Don, I think you owe Pomona Raceway some money because you signed that seat over there in the grandstand, and some idiot cut it out with a hacksaw and put it in his garage. But, my dad wasn't just a drag racer. He was a family man first, and when I tell my kids, I have a lot of kids, and when I tell them the story, I have 6. So when I tell them the stories of my dad, I named my first son after my dad because he was 27 years old. He owned his own business. He was a professional drag racer. He was married and owned his own home and had 4 kids. And I just thought that was an amazing accomplishment. You know, my dad, before he passed, and my mom are married 68 years. He was together, you just don't hear about that anymore, man. So, not only was that, he was all of our coaches. He sent this one, Mitch Southern, professional baseball player, paid for the St. Louis Cardinals. I mean, and my dad coached them all through that. My dad was a hell of an athlete. He was. So with that said, I got into some of the finer points that throughout his career, and like I said, I'm the emotional one. I'm the baby of the family. I've been babied my whole life, and so I get a little emotional. I'm going to try to get through this. I stopped drinking because I knew if I didn't stop drinking, my ass was not going to stop crying. So I'm going to try to get through this as best I can. I want to tell you a little bit about my dad and what he did in the world of drag racing. First off, I would like to congratulate all the other inductees, and I'd like to give my condolences to the families that lost their inductee before he was able to accept their award, because it's a very prestigious award. Here's a little on our father. He was one of the most versatile drivers in the sport. He competed in every type of nitro burning car, from a fuel altered, fuel dragster, fuel funny car, alcohol dragster, and alcohol funny cars. Pops didn't limit himself to just drag racing either. He was also a major competitor in go-karts. He won many races and winning a sprint world championship, and I couldn't even count the track championships. As a matter of fact, at Irwindale Raceway back in the early 70s, Gary would run from Irwindale, because Irwindale drag strip was right here, and there was an overpass, and right off that overpass was the go-kart track, and he wouldn't race the preliminary, the heat races they called them, and he'd be over here qualifying, and he'd run over here on the dirt bike, and he would race the main event of the go-kart race, and then come back over here, and I think at that time it was like Nick Sereno's Warlock Frontage dragster on the same day. He was a lunatic. Anything that had wheels, he would drive it, man. So he raced 75 nitro cars is what we counted up. We thought it was 75 nitro cars and alcohol cars, which made him, if not the top person to drive that many cars in his career, probably close to it. My dad began his career in 1957 at the wheel of a flathead powered altered roadster, and it was owned by my mom's uncle, Will Tice, who actually owned like 3 of the racetracks in Southern California. I think San Gabriel, Fontana. Gibbs knows them all, but I don't know what it was. And that's where he started his racing career. Let's see. The next year, he finally made his first appearance in a fuel dragster, and from that time on, he was the main guy of have helmet, will travel. You had a race car, he had a helmet, he would go to you, and he would drive that car. It was pretty cool. It's funny because he started his career in a in an altered roadster, and the last car he ever drove was, I think it was Hippo's fuel altered, the Red Baron, right? Red Baron at the Winter Nationals. He drove for many people. He drove AA fuel dragsters for Wilton and Doss, Hawkins and Akins, Bob Meyer, Hippo Brimmer, to list a few. His list of AA fuel funny cars was just as extensive. He drove a couple, including John Lindsay's Impulse, the Ted Gumba's Trans Am, the Ground Shaker, Bill Dunlap's Captain Crazy. He also drove the infamous Akins and Hardcastle Stinger 2, which was my favorite car by far. That was near unbeatable, and when NHRA outlawed it because the body was not American made, they took it on an incredible nationwide match race. While he was a super competitor, he didn't limit his skill to just open competition. He drove a dragster in the 1990 American Express halftime Super Bowl commercial featuring Paul Newman. He was a stunt driver and at the wheel of the go-kart, and he also spun out a dragster in the Bikini Beach series. Pops was graced with 3 national event wins, 2 Divisional 7 championships. He also won one of the last races in a front-engine fuel dragster, which at 8 or 9 years old, it was just amazing for me. He was driving the Nick Sereno Warlock, front-engine Warlock, and we beat the Avengers rear-engine dragster from Burset and Noyes. I think that was one of the last drag races at Irwindale, the original Irwindale Raceway. But as prestigious, his best win was absolutely the 1988 NHRA. It's 84. I don't know. I think that's wrong, but the U.S. Nationals in Indianapolis and Dale Smart's Alcohol Dragster, and the pair also won the final race at the original Irwindale racetrack. My pops always said it didn't matter if you won Indy in a B stock or a fuel dragster. Indy was the only one to win. At 82, 83 years old, my dad decided, because we were all racing speedway go-karts, he said, let me drive one of those things, man. So at 80 plus, he was still competitively driving with his son, his grandson, and great-granddaughter, this time in speedway go-karts. In 2019, 20, 21, and 22, he was racing at the Wheel-to-Wheel Raceway in go-karts. He posted over 10 wins, came in second in the championship in 20 and 21, only finished in second to his grandson, which was pretty amazing. Yes, we're here today to honor heroes and legends. We all know the big names of the sport, like Big Daddy the Snake, Tony Schumacher, Ron Capps, John Force, but there are the guys that might not be as well known, but were still the biggest heroes to their family and their fans. I know my pops was the biggest hero to ours. There are many hard racers that went their whole career and never won a single national event. So my pops was very grateful he had won a few. He loved still going to the races in his 80s with all of us, and after his retirement from racing, he wanted to, all of them, we all went to the drag races, and I take my RV out to the drag races in Pomona both times a year, and we have 30 people that just party, and my dad just thought that was the coolest thing, that we all still loved the races as much as he loved them his whole life. It was pretty cool. So he wanted to be inducted into the Hall of Fame so bad, man, just to complete his career, and he got his wish. When I got the call from him, he called me after Don called him, and Don told him he was in and would be inducted into the Hall. The emotion in his voice was heartfelt. I don't mind saying that my tough-ass dad, because when we grew up, drag racers were that dirty guy, that went to the frickin' Denny's after the race and people looked at all weird, and we got in fist fights all the time, and that's the way it was, man. But for him to, shed that tear when Don had called him and let me know that, hey, I'm in, man, I'm in. He was done, and I can tell you he passed away grateful that he was able to get into this place right here, the International Hall of Fame. So that was just great, and I thank you for that, Don. So on behalf of my family, my pops, my brother, we both accept this honor, and you did it, GT, man. We love you, driver. Congratulations. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to start taking that stuff.
Still to come at the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony presented by Wynn's Walt Barbin, a true innovator, and Jungle Pam Hardy. A big thanks to our sponsors, Wright Trailers, Michael Scott, a family of racers. They run Junior Dragsters, they run Top Sportsmen. They're all throughout the NHRA Lucas Oil Series. Wright Trailers, thank you very much. And a Hall of Famer himself, Mr. Richard Shooten, AutoImagery.com. Thank you, Richard, along with Pat and Jerry Baltus. We'll be back with more from the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame.
Have you ever dreamed of getting behind the wheel of a dragster, a high-powered door slammer, or even a funny car? Are you a racer looking to improve your skills, upgrade your license, or acquire a champion's mindset? Since 1985, Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School has been the world's premier venue for all that and more. Thousands have graduated. Now it's your turn. Led by multi-time NHRA champion Frank Hawley and instructed by drag racing champions, the school is open to all with any level of experience. Visit FrankHawley.com to learn more about options like the dragster experience, group events, and more. That's FrankHawley.com.
We've got legends, we have future legends, and maybe even a little breaking news. I'm fighting a little feedback, so we're going to talk quietly. But ladies and gentlemen, this is Krista Baldwin, the granddaughter of Chris Karamessinis. And Krista, hanging out in the crowd. What's up, Krista?
How's it going, guys? Very honored to be here. Love seeing all these inductions, and man, it's cool to see where we've been to get where we're going, and I'm excited to say something.
All right, so we have breaking news. So Flow Sports, Comp Plus, everybody in the house, everybody watching on the screen, get ready for this. Krista, what do you want to tell us?
So as you guys know, I've been driving Top Fuel. This is my 4th year in the class. Absolutely love it. You guys know that drag racing is through and through, like, in my heart, and I knew I needed to make that next step, and I have actually purchased Pat Dakin's full Top Fuel operation, and I'm going racing to 8 to 10 races this year, ready to go 370s and be consistent, and ready to go after that guy named Tony Stewart. He's going down.
You heard it here first, Krista Baldwin, the amazing purchase. The Dakin equipment is so good. We love Pat Dakin, of course, a legend himself. That stuff is fast, and you have taken ownership, and you're going to be out there, what'd you say, 8 to 10?
8 to 10, and it's really cool because I get to bring Scott Graham. He's going to be the crew chief, and the whole crew gets to be with me. But it's also awesome to actually be the only active woman Top Fuel team owner and driver in the sport right now.
Amazing. Krista Baldwin, everybody, you're going to see her out there. We've got so much more to come. Let's go back to Big Daddy for our next inductee.
Walt Barbin. Now there's a name that you won't recognize. Here's a man that was truly a behind-the-scenes innovator in the sport of drag racing. Very few people know what this man did. He was the first man to have the steel rocker arms for the 392. He was the first guy that Teflon the rotors in the blowers. He was the first guy that had the overdrives for the fuel pumps. He was the first guy that had the electric air starters. He wanted to start his dragsters in the building in the wintertime. He didn't sell any of this stuff in any quantity. He made a few of these pieces for his friends. I used to buy the rocker arms from him before Donovan made them commercially. But he was truly a genius in his own right, and he certainly belongs in the Hall of Fame. Please welcome Will Barbin. Hannah DeVitis will be making the presentation.
Come on up, Hannah. Hannah DeVitis, coming to the stage. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Hannah.
I'm a millennial. I don't have paper. It's on my phone. Use without internet. There we go. All right. Howdy. We have any Aggies in here? Do we? Gig 'em? Love it. Okay, we got one. Perfect. All right. So obviously we're all here for everyone being inducted. It's incredible. There's 6 phenomenal racers who've been chosen to represent the National Drag Racing Hall of Fame this year, which is awesome. I'm the granddaughter of Walt Trix Barbin. I'm one of three. The other two are sitting right here. Somehow, some way, only the granddaughters got to come to this, which is pretty exciting. I somehow, some way was the only granddaughter, well, other than Maddie, but that never went to go see any drag racing when I was younger. My brother, another cousin, my cousin Kathleen, they all went, and I just was into sports. I wasn't into it. Here we are. I'm the one that's make my truck louder, faster, stronger, everything. Make it happen. So, speaking of, I'm going to start with some small memories I have of him working on cars. I could tell you all I thought he was doing was an oil change or touch-up. I remember you were doing the touch-up paint or the pinstripes, things like that, small things. Had no idea he had built cars. Had no idea. I had no idea the man my grandpa was and is. Fast forward many years to December of 2019. Our family had gone through a tough time losing my father in January. I'd wanted his truck, a royal blue 2009 Ram SLT 1500 Hemi. That was my dream truck from the moment my dad brought it home in 2010. Then in December 2019, I got my truck, Big Blue. My dad's truck became my truck. Walt Barbin, my grandfather, got my truck to pass inspection on its own for the past 5 years. My dad did not take very good care of the truck because it was a work truck. A truck that went through Harvey floodwaters, the truck my grandpa put a K&N cooler intake in for my 23rd birthday, custom dual exhaust with a cherry red muffler on for my 24th birthday, put a level kit on it for me, replaced all the original hoses, basically took about 3 months to bring the truck back to life, and then kept going. One thing we have in common is the love for loud, fast cars and my truck. Anytime I have a new light pop on or the truck tells me something on the screen, or sometimes you're driving and you're like, oh, he's telling me to, don't hit me don't hit the gas that hard. I'm like, okay, buddy, it's okay. Give him a little pat, he'll be okay. I call my grandpa. And if I'm at work, I'll get a call within 30 minutes. Hey, I'm outside. I need to turn the truck on and see what's going on. And I'm like, I'm at work. Well, so be it. Big Blue's not just my truck, it's our truck. I have the most badass grandpa. I don't know anybody who could compare. He does it all, from fixing any issue or just maintaining the entire family's cars, as well as fixing any issue with our homes. This man, honestly, to me, is this day's Iron Man. I know he has no clue what I was going to be saying, and he'll probably end up crying here shortly, honestly. But you're such an important part of our family. You've helped shape your grandkids into people who can handle fixing shit on a house, a car, and just in life. You have over a table's worth of people here for you tonight, as well as over 10 other people on live stream. You are the reason for us all being here right now. You are the badass. I'm beyond proud to be your granddaughter. Please help me introduce Walt Trix Barbin. Don't run. Here you go. I'm the only Aggie in the whole family.
Thank you, honey.
Of course. Love you.
Love you too. Okay. Any Dallas fans, Dallas Cowboy fans? Here we go. Here we go. Just a couple notes before I continue on. Garlis covered most of the things that I did innovate, missed a couple. The blower drive pulleys were Gilmer, where they used formerly fan belts. There was a super blower that I did in about 71, 72 that was later banned by NHRA. Quick reason why I got the name Trix. With each of these innovations, when I went to the track, there was a fella from Maryland by the name of Dickie Burgess, who was a friendly competitor. And he would see these things week to week, no matter what they would be, and finally he'd come to the race one Sunday, And he said, I'm going to call you Tricks. And it stuck. So I was happy about that. I think Ricky Smith is called the same. Okay, another thing, I went to Garloth's, it was a roast for his 80th birthday in Pomona. So I went out there to see what he was doing, also helped him a little bit at the tent. He was selling books. There was a company there that was doing a documentary on drag racing. And it was called Project 1320. So Garland told him, why don't you interview Walt? He's done a few good things for drag racing. And at first I declined. And then at his tone, he says, Walt, go do the interview. You don't toot your horn enough. So anyway, I did the interview. It lasted 47 minutes. I thought it was going to be 15 to cover all these things that I spent time on. And if you want to see the 47-minute interview, which covers all these things in detail, that's why it took 47 minutes. It's on YouTube. You can bring the video up by typing in Walt Tricks Barman, and it'll come up. Let's see here. Okay, my first car was a 36 Ford convertible coupe. I paid $150 for the car, believe it or not. Anyway, before it was over, I put an Olds engine in it, Cadillac transmission, an Olds rear end, and I don't know if the picture's up on the video or not, but it turned out well. This next video is from my shop in Dynamic Engines in New Jersey, and I believe, Garlis was there, his helper Bob Taft was there, and some of my employees. This is a video from the shop. I raced rear engine dragsters from about 1975 through 81. Drove some myself, also had some drivers. One thing that sticks in my mind that I really remember one victory, even though I was defeated many times by that man that's sitting over there called Don Garlis. But it was a Saturday at Columbus, Ohio, and I was working on the cars, Spring Nationals. I think it was somewhere around 1979. And Garlis come over to the car. I was working on the dragster, and he says, Walt, in that tone, he said, the track is really good. You need to leave hard. I said, okay. So as it comes to the staging lanes, who do I get paired up against? With Big Daddy. So normally I would leave with Ed Idle, dropping the hammer to the floor. That was my routine. This particular time I figured, well, if the track is that good, I want to bring the RPMs up, load the clutch, and leave hard. So we cackle the cars off, we get in the stage. I look over, there's Big sitting there by himself. We leave, about the third way down the track, I look over to my left, he's still there. We go down maybe 700-800 feet, I look over, he's still there. We go through the lights, and I get the Wynn light. I said, oh my God. I get my ass kicked for 7 times, and I finally get a win. So which do I remember? I remember the win. The next day, and the previous week, I won a big race at York, Pennsylvania. It was called the National Dragster Open. In fact, Connie was there racing, Jim and Allison Lee, some other strong cars. I won that race. It was really running good, and when I went to Columbus, I was pumped. I felt that I was going to do really well. So the first round, I get what's his name? Kelly. Trying to think of his first name. Anyway, he was world champion the year before, and right before we got in the cars, knowing how good he was running, but I knew how good I was running, and I told him, I said, don't be late. So what happens, I guess it's on the screen or coming up, what happens is we left, he was early, he red lit, I was on time, so fortunately I got the win. So the next round I had Rob Bruins. He was a good lever, very quick on the lights, and his car was running good. So I lost to him, and guess who was late? Okay, anyway, the next thing, I had a restoration that I did on a 1938 Buick Coupe that was from my wife's boss. So anyway, hopefully there'll be some pictures of that Buick. I took and did everything to it. Late model Chevy, turbo 400 transmission, Olds rear end. Externally and internally, the car was absolutely gorgeous. Leather upholstery, the whole deal. That was my last project. In closing, what I'm saying is, it's nice to be acknowledged for the innovations that I did, but looking back, the most rewarding part of this journey was the people along the way. Unfortunately, most of my friends and associates have passed and will not get to see this event. I want to thank Don Ewald of WDIFL, which is a tremendous history site of many, many cars. He's done a great job. And Jim Hartner, known as Jim the Painter, one of the best ever, for their input. I want to thank my wife, family, for the love and support all these years. Thank you for coming, and God bless. All I have to do is get down the steps without falling.
More to come here at the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony, including 2024 inductees Garth Hogan, Joe Gibbs, and Jungle Pam Hardy. But first, a big thanks to the folks at Wynn, who have come on board as our presenting sponsor and have been part of the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony since 2022. The folks at Donovan and the Bill Simpson Foundation, thank you for your support. We'll be back with more from the Hilton in Gainesville, Florida.
Trick Chassis, custom drag racing auto part fabrication, offering high-end drag racing suspension packages and other automotive components for a variety of vehicles and manufacturers. Find quality GM in-house drag racing and performance suspension packages, chassis parts, and automotive components from Trick Chassis to spruce up your ride and take your car to the next level. Trick Chassis, street and performance suspension made in-house.
Welcome back to the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame, presented by Wynn. Who's having a good time out there? Let me know. You know it. And you're going to be able to relive it all. I know we got people around the world on Flow Sports and CompetitionPlus.com. They're all texting and tweet each other with big news about Krista Baldwin. It is going to be great. But you're going to want to see it again. CBS Sports is going to air this on April 28th. So you can put it in your phones right now. April 28th, CBS Sports. Don't miss it. The re-air of the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. We are coming down the stretch here at the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. I know we got some really big Hall of Famers that are coming up. We got a bunch of tables that are ready to celebrate and get going. So let's keep it going and throw it back to Big Daddy and find out who our next inductee is going into the Hall of Fame.
Pam Hardy. She's probably responsible for Jungle Jim's success as his driving. She was unbelievable. She was the showwoman of drag racing. The people, when Jungle drove, they rushed up to the starting line to watch it. Every one of the spectators wanted to get that view. Pam Hardy, what a wonderful person and such a sweet lady. We really love her, and it's a great pleasure that she's in the Hall of Fame now. And here's Ron Hughley to make the presentation.
So let me take you back to April in 1972. By 1972, funny cars were the ultimate for this boy growing up in Oregon. First was the Whipple and McCullough car, then Kenny Goodell and Twig Ziegler. I built every funny car model I could get my hands on, and the Jungle Jim Camaro was one of my first. Living 30 minutes from Portland International Raceway helped me inspire me to drive my own funny car someday. In 1972, All in the Family was the #1 TV-rated show, and Roberta Flack would go to #1 with her hit, The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. How ironic is it on that April day in 1972, in the quiet college town of Westchester, PA, a nationally recognized funny car driver would happen upon a true girl next door. He turned to the 18-year-old waiting for high school graduation and caught Jim's eye, and like that Grammy-winning song, the world would never be the same. Times were still somewhat safe, so for a young woman to run off, barnstorm the country with a group of drag racers was not out of the question. It wasn't long before the racing world would learn of this free spirit with the 0 inseam shorts and 2 wonderful blessings from God. But Pam just wasn't a pretty face. From checking the track for fluids to making sure Jungle was backed up in his tracks, Pam was the yin to Jungle's yang. Always willing to talk to the fan, it was that personal connection and her natural beauty that would forever leave its mark on drag racing. It was in the summer of 1974 when I met Pam for the first time at PIR. Excited to finally see Jungle and witness that Jungle show firsthand, I walked around that big blue box truck, and there was that famous Vega. Jungle was nowhere to be seen, as was usually the case, but sitting on the step to the truck was Pam. I can't remember our conversation, and neither can she, but I remember hanging around the pit. No matter who came by, she would always have time to talk to them and always be friendly to me. So let's flash forward 36 years. My buddy Greg and I, we towed all the way across country from the Northwest to Atco, New Jersey for a big funny car match race. It was then that I was reacquainted with Pam. There to hang out with her husband Bill, see some old friends. We crossed paths, and after some coaxing, she agreed to do the honors of being my backup girl. Holy shit, I have died and gone to heaven. Sorry for the language. Through that event, I was able to grow a lifelong friendship and bond with Pam and Bill. Now known as Little Brother, Pam and I spent countless days at tracks with the Tiki car and the Jungle Novas. Even though they were before her time with Jungle, she would graciously go with us and visit with every fan that wanted to see her and relive the glory days. Most of them were kind and respectful. A few could be crude and disgusting, but Pam would just smile and take it in stride. Always the gracious one. It is that attribute that makes her deserving of the honor she is to receive. She doesn't really understand why. She really doesn't understand why. But all of us in this room truly do. Pam is a part of the fabric that makes drag racing so cool, so personal, and so real. A moment when the sport was more pure and less commercial. Events were special. If you were not there, you missed out. No social media, no streams. Not every national event was televised. Cars were works of art. Personalities were as wild as the cars. There will never be another Jungle Pam. Many have tried, but that lightning only struck once. Now I'm going to introduce my sister, Pam Hardy.
No notes. I just want to thank Don and the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame, and I thank from the bottom of my heart Pete White, who, with his patience and good humor, taught me how to be the best line and crew member ever. Thank you.
Things continue to heat up here at the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony presented by Wynn, with Hall of Fame inductees coming up. Garth Hogan and the man known as Tricky, Ricky Smith. We'd like to thank our sponsors, the National Hot Rod Association, Stewart Cycle, and Joe Amato Properties, who have been with the Hall of Fame since 2002. Thank you for your support of the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame.
Masters Entertainment Group is now offering live event streaming. Masters Entertainment Group's live streaming division can cover your event with a professional and experienced crew to give your event worldwide coverage. Basketball, drag racing, football, slot car racing, and everything in between. Masters Entertainment Group will have your event streaming worldwide at a push of a button. Don't miss out. Contact Masters Entertainment Group today.
Fame presented by Wynn. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Big Daddy Don Garlitz with our next inductee.
You know, Richard Petty's one of the biggest names in NASCAR. And in the 1990s, Joe Gibbs was one of the major driving forces in motorsports. He owned cars in NASCAR and NHRA. He owned the McDonald's team that Corey McKinson drove and Cruz Pedregon. He won 33 national events and 1 major championship. And here's the man himself to accept the award.
Well, my hot rod story really starts when my family moved to Southern California in 1954. And my whole life changed at that point. I had grown up in the hills of North Carolina, and it was all ball, football, basketball, and baseball. Had very little to do with cars, but in 1954, my family moved to Southern California, and my whole life changed when it comes to motorsports. Fell in love with hot rods and drag racing. I really grew up in the greatest time. It was the 50s and 60s. It was the best music, rock and roll. It was lowered cars, hot rods. It was date night, and it was falling in love with drag racing at Lyons Drag Strip. Showing up there as a spectator and admiring Perdome, McEwen, TV Tommy Ivo, and when Don Garlitz toured Southern California, and that was kind of my background. I loved it. Our cars, I had side stacks, flippers, and our cars were all named. Mine was a 1949 Mercury, My Blue Heaven. And so that started my love of motorsports. And I guess for me, the love too moved to drag racing myself. I had a gas coupe, a gas dragster, a top fuel dragster, and I guess fortunately for me, our very first pass in top fuel, I blew up. And before I could get the car back together, I started coaching in college and moving all around the country. And as I moved around the country, and we wound up with our 2 boys, JD and Coy, they wound up, because of my interest in motorsports and their interest, they were always on something with wheels. It was go-karts, it was motocross, and at different times, it was some form of drag racing. When JD graduated from college, he said, "Dad, I would rather do something in motorsports than I would in coaching. And following our NASCAR efforts in 1991, in 96, we all decided we want to go back to drag racing. And in 1996, we spent 6 years in NHRA drag racing. We were fortunate enough to have 30 wins, championships, and a love of motorsports. I think it's one of the greatest experiences you could have is to be at a drag race. I just want to say to everybody there tonight, it's one of the great honors in my life is to be inducted into the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame, joining so many of the great stars that I grew up admiring and respecting. Thank you so much for this honor.
Coach Joe Gibbs. Hey, we're out here in the audience hanging out with interested observers like Mr. Larry Dixon. What's up, Larry?
Oh, enjoying the show.
What'd you think of that? Like, there are moments where you're just, at least I am, awed by what you're witnessing. And Coach Gibbs talking a little bit about his hot rodding days. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's the common bond here is the fact that it's drag racing. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, just wanted to grow up and race, and all these people that are getting inducted are my heroes. It's literally people that I grew up wanting to be like when I did grow up.
You did grow up and win a whole bunch of world championships, and now you're a Top Fuel team owner, mentoring the next generation coming up.
Yeah, it's whatever it takes to be involved in the sport. I really enjoy it, and like I said, I've been going to races since before I was born, and so you just you evolve as you go and fit where you can, and keep making noise and burning fuel.
All right, while we're hanging out here in the crowd, we're going to throw it back to Big Daddy Don Garlitz with our next inductee.
Garth Hogan. He's from New Zealand. Garth got his driver's license when he was 15 years old. He loved cars. By 1974, he had his own dragster with a small block Chevy. He then graduated into funny cars. He became the first car to run 200 miles an hour in New Zealand. And then he held the speed records for ET and speed outside of the United States. He was the fastest guy in the world. Then he brought the Thunderbolt Raceway, which he improved and had a lot of drag races there. And finally, he was appointed the FIA director for that part of the world. A very important position having to do with the FIA. They are the ones that say all the records and verify all the best times, around the world for car racing. So it's with my honor that we put Garth Hogan into the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. And Steve Gibbs will be making that presentation, as he's the fellow that does most of our international picks. Steve is well known to know about the racers around the world, and he keeps up with all of that information, and we appreciate that. Steve Gibbs.
It's always an honor to return to Gainesville, especially since I was here at the very first one in 1970, and been honored to be a selector in the Hall of Fame for over 30 years, and to be a part of this whole thing. The International Drag Racing Hall of Fame, international, that's a word I think we need to remember because it's very important. Even though drag racing would be considered the all-American sport, it's a worldwide sport these days. And a lot of countries have their own stars and their guys that help make drag racing what it is around the world. Kind of imagine if you're a young fellow, you're born in the late 40s and you love motorsports, your father races dirt cars, you love competition, you live in a country that the closest speed shop for American parts is 7,000 miles away. There's hardly any racetracks in your country. The first drag strip you go to is a dirt drag strip. You want to compete, you're competitive. The first real racetrack you get to go to, you got to travel to another country 1,000 miles away to see it. But it's planted the hook. You want to race, you want to compete. You know, how do you do this in a country where everything you need has to be put on the ship, 7,000 miles, you pay duty, you pay more money to be involved, but you persist. And you work hard, and you start a business, and you start trading, and you work your way up, and you get your first car, and you join any activity you can to pursue hot rodding and drag racing in your country. And he does that, and he's a success. And eventually he works his way up to where he's got a race car, competes, works his way up, has a nitro funny car, becomes the first guy in his country to run 200 miles an hour. It's a major accomplishment on the kind of tracks you have to run at in a country 7,000 miles from where every part you need, it's tough. This guy, very successful in business. I just found out today he's made 141 trips between New Zealand and the United States in the efforts to business, and a lot of that business was to pursue drag racing. He saw too that the drag racing grew in New Zealand. The country we're talking about is New Zealand, not Australia. Don't make that mistake. Anyway, Garth Hogan is a legend in New Zealand. He operated racetracks. He saw too that American cars were brought to New Zealand for the good of the sport and the fans in New Zealand. He started a very successful business. He went on to graduate to Top Fuel. He raced in Australia every chance he had. And when he finally retired, he had gone over 260 miles an hour on racetracks. That's an accomplishment. It's hard to imagine the dedication that it takes to pursue that under those circumstances. And then Garth also went on to become an international drag racing rules-making efforts to promote drag racing around the world. He's dedicated to the sport. He's competitive beyond belief. He still loves the thrill of performance. After he quit drag racing, he learned to fly, and before he was finished, he was rebuilding World War II warbirds, flying a P-40 that he had built for himself. He's continually active. He's restoring Dick LaHaye's championship car. He does anything and everything he can to promote the sport. Garth Hogan is a legend, not only in New Zealand, but in drag racing. Please don't remember the international aspect of this organization, because there's drag racing around the world, and there's people like Garth Hogan that are doing everything they can to make this sport continue to be a worldwide activity. With that, I'd like to introduce the newest inductee in the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame, Garth Hogan.
Well, first of all, thank you, Steve, for the kind words. Was that really me? I'm not sure. I took a look at the photo that's in the program, and that's a skinny guy with black hair and a mustache, and that doesn't look like me. And when we started drag racing in New Zealand, it was late 1960s, and as Steve mentioned, the drag strip was a dirt drag strip, and the guardrails were rows of 55-gallon drums full of dirt, which the spectators sat on with their legs on the racetrack side, which probably wasn't a really good idea. But the cars were all relatively low-powered. They were flatheads, 283 Chevys, 272 Fords. 13 seconds was considered to be extraordinarily fast. In the years that followed, after the demise of that, we raced on closed public roads, which the authorities were kind enough to let us do, or on small provincial airports, on the straightaways at circuit racing facilities, but they were always too short. And then finally, 1974, we got a proper racetrack to race on. And you're probably wondering why I'm giving you the history of drag racing in New Zealand 101. But it goes right back to the beginning because, as Steve said, we were kind of isolated. And we didn't have a lot of contact with the rest of the world. Of course, there was no drag racing on television, and of course, there was, needless to say, no internet or whatever. So the information we got, and we is a collective group of young guys who were street riders who had no money, and we got our inspiration for our street rods by reading magazines from the US, and the primary one being Hot Rod magazine. And of course, in the course of doing that, we were reading about this drag racing, and we initially saw it as something we could do with our street rods and go and make some competition out of it. And it sort of developed from there, and it got to the stage where some of the racetracks, the Carlsbad and Half Moon Bay and later Lions, became iconic. Those names to us meant the same as Indianapolis means to the open wheel racing set, or Wimbledon means to a tennis player. And not only did the tracks become iconic, but the fast guys there became iconic. And we became infatuated, if you like, with these people. The Don Garletts, the Connie Coletta, the Chris Karamessinis. And then a little later, as it worked down the road, you know, we had the Perdones and the McEwens and the Carl Olsons and the Shirleys, and to us, these people were larger than life. And they were our heroes. And the thought of even watching them race, let alone actually meeting them, was almost inconceivable. So I'd like you to try and imagine how I'm feeling right now. You know, this is surreal. I'm having difficulty getting my head around the fact that I'm here and I'm being inducted into the Hall of Fame with all of my heroes. And for that, I'd like to say thank you to Don and the selectors that made this possible. This is a huge honor. But it's not just mine. You know, we all know here that drag racing is not a singleton or a solo person's sport. You've got a myriad of people that you need to be surrounded by to be able to do what you wind up doing. And I've got in New Zealand in particular, I'd like to acknowledge publicly the work that was put in by the variety of people that have served on the New Zealand Drag Racing Association as a group, too many to name. But then there's a couple of people, the great majority here would never have heard of, that I really would like to mention, because this honor is as much theirs as anybody else's. And the first is a guy called Ralph Wright. Ralph Wright was a jeweler. He was a hot rodder, and he was involved in the days of the dirt drag strip and in the racing on the roads. And Ralph became a leading light, and he was a quiet sort of, or he still is a quiet sort of a guy that just got on with things, but he managed to focus people and get everybody together, and he established a relationship with a friendly farmer who had some land about 40 miles south of the city of Auckland. And he then set about, with a lot of other people around him, and raised the money to build the drag strip. And without what Ralph did there, I think the drag racing thing would have probably stagnated for some time. The second guy I'd like to mention is a guy called Graham Berry. Once again, you probably have never heard of him. And Graham was the fabricator extraordinaire. You got to keep in mind, as has been mentioned, New Zealand was very isolated. Nobody there had seen the evolution of the drag race car, the chassis and the engine location and how the cars were structured. And there were no plans. But in those early years, Graham produced a variety of altereds and front engine dragsters and rear engine dragsters and funny cars. And in the case of, an example I guess I'd use is the first fuel funny car, which him and I ran jointly. He built it, I drove it. That was a lucky one. But we didn't have those plans. So he managed to find a magazine that had a big write-up on the Blue Max. That's the one with the Mustang 2 body on it. And it had the body off and all these photos of the car without the body on it. And you think, okay, well, that'd give him a basic idea of the layout of the car. But then he sat down with a pair of dividers and measured things that we knew the dimensions of, like the wheels. And from that, he scaled it up and drew the car, and then he built it. And it was fast. And it ran straight. Well, as straight as a funny car did in those days. And it was a good-looking car. And if it hadn't been for Graham, we wouldn't have had the cars, because we had a thing called import licensing. And some grey-suited people that sat in government decided arbitrarily what was allowed to be imported and what wasn't allowed to be imported, and what wasn't allowed to be imported was race cars. So we just didn't have, or he didn't have, examples that he could go and look at to design them. So without Ralph providing the track and without Graham providing the cars, drag racing really wouldn't have gone where it went. But there's also a couple of people that I would like to acknowledge. Sadly, neither of them are with us any longer. But as Steve said, when the nearest speed shop's 7,000 miles away, that can create problems. And the first of which is Lee Cohen. And Lee had a little export place. He seemed to know everybody, and what we didn't know how to buy, he did. And not only did we have restrictions on what we could import, but the tariff on auto parts, the duty we had to pay coming in, was 55%. And on top of that, they put 20% sales tax. So what you paid for things tended to get fairly important. And Lee had this damn pen that kept running out of ink. And this is the days of handwritten invoices. And he'd write up the invoice, and just when he was putting the price on it, somehow the last zero didn't appear. Which was a huge benefit when you came to pay the duty when the goods arrived. The second guy I'd like to mention is Joe Paisano. And we bought our blocks and pistons and rods off Joe. And he provided me, he became my mentor. And basically, he provided us with all the advice he had accumulated over the years, and mainly in the tune-up area. And after he'd come to New Zealand and given us a hand, sorted out a lot of the things we were doing wrong, the car was quicker and it was a hell of a lot more reliable. I mean, I always wondered why he did that, because he sort of shot himself in the foot. Because after that, the orders he got for pistons from New Zealand dropped dramatically, because we weren't wrecking as much stuff as we used to. And there's a couple of other people I'd like to acknowledge, one of which being Steve. In this case, Steve Gibbs, because Steve came down to New Zealand after we'd acquired one of the racetracks and sorted out the track surface. He sorted out how the structure and how it worked, and made the place run a lot better, and made it so that we could run a fuel car without lighting the tires as soon as you touched the gas pedal. And there was also the late Steve Evans, who came down and helped us out, sort out the tower and the announcing, and just made the place a lot more professional. And one other last person I'd like to mention is Carl Olson, for the reasons that Steve mentioned and has been otherwise mentioned, for his assistance in his various VP positions at NHRA, plus when he was president of the Drag Racing Commission. As Steve said, it was his drive that established some worldwide recognized rules, which, living in New Zealand, and we were bringing Australian people over to race against us, and people from the US down, we all of a sudden were able to all play off the same song sheet because the rules were consistent everywhere. So I'd like to acknowledge him. And there's one more person, you know, a lot of grey hair in here, but when we were young, we all were once, I guess, and went drag racing. I mean, drag racing was a cruel mistress, and it beat us up pretty badly on time and money, to the extent that spare time was lost as part of the vocabulary, and even worse was surplus money that didn't exist either. And that meant, that put quite a load and a strain on personal relationships and what was happening in families and whatever. And I was lucky in that I had a wife who not only tolerated it, but I guess she took the position of if you can't beat them, join them. And she became part of the team, and she was an integral part of our team, particularly when it came to servicing the car between rounds. And it's my wife Andrea, and she's sitting over there. And I guess while I'm at it, I might as well put my hand up here. That diamond engagement ring. The one you didn't get because I spent the money on engine parts. Well, I haven't forgotten, and I know good things take time. I'm not sure that 45 years is justifiable, but I'm working on it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Stay with us, race fans. We're about to put this show into high gear. Coming up, 2024 inductees Bill Holland and Tricky Ricky Smith. The International Drag Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony presented by Wynn is brought to you by the folks at TAC Enterprises. Since 2002, over 20 years, thank you, TAC. And SEMA. Since 2006, the Specialty Equipment Manufacturers Association has been a big part of the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame.
Have you ever dreamed of getting behind the wheel of a dragster, a high-powered door slammer, or even a funny car? Are you a racer looking to improve your skills, upgrade your license, or acquire a champion's mindset? Since 1985, Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School has been the world's premier venue for all that and more. Thousands have graduated. Now it's your turn. Led by multi-time NHRA champion Frank Hawley and instructed by drag racing champions, the school is open to all with any level of experience. Visit frankhawley.com to learn more about options like the dragster experience, group events, and more. That's frankhawley.com.
Think of any repair where you need to have both hands free and have a work light inches from what you need to see. Well, now you can have awesome targeted illumination with Goose Grip work lights. Goose Grip lights allows you to work hands-free and stress-free with this thin and flexible design. With these work lights in your arsenal of equipment, you will eliminate light frustration that mechanics experience every day. That's Goose Grip Innovative Lights.
Ricky Smith, he won 5 IHRA World Championships in Pro Stock. I remember him. I was running for IHRA at the time. You couldn't beat the guy out of the gate. Lots of times his car wasn't as quick, but he just gained so much advantage on the leave. He was one of the best leavers I ever met. Then later he moved into NHRA Championship racing, but he went into Pro Mod. In Pro Mod, he won 3 world championships. He was very versatile. He even tried his hand at round track racing, but he always came back to drag racing. He liked that the best. Please welcome Ricky Smith to the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. And Ted Jones will be making the presentation.
Well, let me tell you a story about a racer that changed the way that professional cars are laddered and lined up. See, it used to be 1 runs 9, 2 runs 10, and so forth. We were Rockingham, North Carolina, final round of qualifying pro stock, and the word came in from the top end crew down there, stop, they're all backed up down the return road. Now, we used to get 40 or 50 of these Mount Motor pro stocks, so you picture down that return road. This is a problem at the scales. So I go to the scales, and here's this racer not getting on the scales. And I said, what's the problem? He said, he's down there talking to the racers. So I go down the road, I said, well, what's going on? He said, I'm trying to decide if I want to weigh or not. See, in IHRA, if you didn't weigh every qualifying round, we threw the timeout. And I said, well, did you go quicker? Yeah. Well, then why wouldn't you want to weigh? Because I don't want to move up to number 9, have to run number 1. I want to make sure my time's good enough. I'd just soon be 13, 14. Well, I could see right there we had a problem. So the next year, in the IHRA rule book, we changed it. 1 runs 16, 2 runs 15, and so forth. NHRA, a couple years later, picked the same thing up, and that's the way it's done today. Because of that one racer that figured out, I'm not sure I want to go faster. And that racer was Tricky Ricky Smith in Rockingham, North Carolina. Now, there's a lot of stories I could tell you about Ricky Smith, but I can't tell them here. But if you get him in the bar, okay, later on, and give him a few beers, he might share some of them with you, okay? I'll give you one you can start him with. Just say, Ricky, why did they call you Helicopter Smith? Okay, a couple may know already, okay. See if you can get him to explain that to you. It's pretty good. Ricky should have been in here 3 or 4 years ago. But see, to be in the Hall of Fame, you have to retire or reach retirement age. Well, Ricky would retire, but then the spring of the year, he'd come out and race again. Then he'd retire, then he'd come out and race again. I think he was trying to break Garlett's record for times to retire. And so, finally, I talked to one of Ricky's sponsors, okay, Charlie Lingenfelter, who told me, he said, no, listen, I called him up. And I said, Ricky, don't retire. I'll be your sponsor this year. Don't retire. So there were times that he didn't. Well, I kind of followed it and watched it. Now, he's old enough to come in. He's retirement age, even if he doesn't retire. But I thought, it sounds like he's going to retire this year. Then I see the headline on CompetitionPlus.com. Ricky Smith runs Top Fuel Dragster. What is that? Well, I don't think he's going to do it, but it kind of got everybody's attention. This guy was absolutely incredible. He ruined an IHRA class all by himself. We introduced one called Super Modified. It was like a junior pro stock class, a small block, single 4-barrel carburetor, tire size limit. This guy so dominated that class that they all got out, and we had to discontinue the class because we couldn't find guys to run Ricky. So then he got excited about Mountain Motor Pro Stock. Oh, boy, did he ever. 5 world championships, 4 years in a row. Open your books down there and look at the name of professional pro stock drivers that are already in the Hall of Fame. I will guarantee you, Ricky had beat every one of them, maybe sometimes more than once. How else could he win 5 world championships in pro stock? Then we introduced Pro Modified. Ricky thought that'd be more fun. So he came over and he started running Pro Modified. Same thing, dominating, winning. It was absolutely incredible. He went over to NHRA and he started running Pro Modified there. Won 3 championships, won 19 national events, and to this day is the winningest Pro Mod driver in NHRA history. That's absolutely incredible. That's domination. That's a very, very competitive class. One of the things that impressed me a lot about Ricky is when we're doing the Pro Modified show for NHRA on ESPN, you go around between rounds and you try and get sound bites from the driver on what they're going to do. Well, when you're to Ricky's pit, oh boy. I mean, Ricky would tell you what he really thought. A lot of it I couldn't put on the air, but he would tell you what he really thought. The other thing I really noticed, you go to these different pro pit areas of Pro Modifieds, 4 or 5 guys working on this car, and there's a guy, 2 guys on the transmission. There's a guy doing the bottom end. Over here's a guy doing the top end. You go to Ricky's pit, 1 guy. Ricky and 1 guy. And yet he still managed to win all these championships with just that crew of 2. Ricky was the car owner, the crew chief, and the driver, all wrapped into one, which to me was absolutely incredible. When they told me to introduce Ricky, I thought, well, this guy's won so many things in so many different classes. It's incredible. PDRA, IHRA, NHRA. I got to have this thing right as far as the numbers. So I called the Encyclopedia of Drag Racing, Brett Kepner. And I said, Brett, I got to have this stuff right. So Brett researched for me and came up with some of these figures and everything. And the amazing part is he wanted to verify with Ricky. So he calls Ricky. And he says, Ricky, do you know how many national events, main events that you won? Ricky says, no, I don't know. So Brett researched it out and told him. And let me tell you something, he doesn't know right now. He told Brett, he said, how many did I win? Brett says, they'll tell you at the Hall of Fame. So, Ricky Smith, head up this way, buddy. This is your night. Come on. Come on up here. We're going to reveal it to you. We will tell you that he won 12 world championships. But in addition to that, Ricky Smith, I'm pleased to tell you, with all the official work we've done, you won 75 national events. Is that a Hall of Fame guy? Tricky Ricky Smith.
I just got to say one thing here. All of you watch me always know I get emotional, but it comes from here. This man has watched me all my life. This man just had a triple bypass 7 days ago and would not stay at home, had to come and do this for me. Unreal. Guys, I don't know what to say. I mean, this was, when I got introduced or put on the deal in Bristol, Tennessee, on the tower up there, when they built the whole new track, they put 4 names up there first. Larry Carrier, Wally Parks, Big Daddy. Where in the hell they come up with my name? I don't know. But that was one of the biggest honors I had ever had in my life at that time. When I got on the same plane as them 3 guys, I said, you know, to myself, damn, I believe I've made it, you know. I've done what I set out to do. I didn't know I was going to do this in 1973 when I started playing around home. I just wanted to go out and run good old Charlie Brown, Mike Boyles. A lot of you probably know that old wagon. He's still running it. That was my goal, to outrun Charlie, Mike Boyles. And here I am, went professional. Not long after that, and started winning championships. My first 2 was in 76, 77. Burnt the class, done away with it. Then we got into pro stock and dominated that, you know, and I come to NHRA. But it's just been an amazing ride here, people. Amazing for a high school graduate. And, had a real lovely mom and dad. Never was able to give me a dime. I got married 3 months. I graduated in 1972. I got married 3 months before I got out of school. Everybody said, ain't no way y'all gonna make it. That woman sitting right over there. Come Easter Monday. Easter Monday, we'll be married 52 years. I got a son sitting over there. I still think of my kid. He's 51. I got a daughter sitting over there. I mean, I've had 3 wonderful children. Just unbelievable wife to put up with me on the road like this long. It wouldn't even think about me, Matthew, none of my kids. None of us would be here without that woman. Period. That woman is the ticket. When they say glue, when they say a mother is a glue to a family, anybody knows anything knows that's a true statement. Mother is the glue. to the family. I don't want to stay up here long, but I just want to thank a few people here. I started out with Don Hardy cars. Don Hardy's passed on. Thank you, Don Hardy. Then I went to Jerry Bickle. Stayed there a few years. Went with Jerry Haas a few years. Jerry Bickle kept hounding me to come back. And I was with Jerry Bickle probably the last 20, 25 years of my career. And a lot of you know I've had some mighty good cars. I've had 34 brand new cars from Jerry Bickle, not counting Haas and other. Amazing run I've had for a high school graduate. So don't let people say you can't do this. You can. It's tough. It's a lot of time on the road. I missed a lot of time with my family. I had a wife to look after them. And, man, I don't know what to say. The one thing I did know before I come up here, I am a little bit controversial because I believe in what I do. I believe in what I say, and I try to race hard. I knew when I come up here that I wasn't going to get a hug from Glenn Conrail or Steve Gibbs. Because especially Steve Gibbs. I love him to death. That man voted me in to be in here. But, man, did we have some arguments. I'm telling you, we've had some knockdown, throwdowns. This is a quick thing I got to say. I went to Atlanta one year, and back in the day, if you had a new car, you could have a new car checkout. You run it 1,000 foot and you shut it off. You got your time run. Well, I'd done that 2 or 3 times because I was always getting new cars a couple a year. I go to Atlanta and I roll down through there and I make a good run, and I swear right now my mama's grave, I shut the thing off at 1,000 foot. Steve Gibbs come over in my pit, and I had Todd Tetterow going to drive my other car. Some of you know Todd. He had his physical paper. We had all the paperwork there, had him entered. We was in the pits. Steve Gibbs come over there and told me, he said, "You're not making the first qualifying run. You run that thing all the way through." He gave me some kind of time, and I couldn't have run it down here at Gainesville in 60-degree air temp, which I knew I didn't run. We got in a big argument. He walks off. I let him get about 20 feet off, and I went and grabbed him by the arm and spun him back around. I said, "Steve, what's the deal?" We got in another argument. But he took the papers. It was papers like this. Probably, you know how hard it is to get physicals and all that stuff done and run, license. He took that paperwork and ripped it up and threw it on that car and then told me, "Boy, I was hot. But Steve, it's all in the past. I thank you for..." I've had some opportunities to be thrown out in NHRA several times having some conversations, but at least they knew that I meant well and I was a hard racer. Uh-oh, here he comes.
I really don't remember it quite that way. But it's his turn.
All I can say is it's true that, age cures a lot of things. Helps you realize when you get older that bullshit we get into sometimes in arguments really don't mean anything. You need to realize that it's good to be alive. Because I've lost a lot of good friends, so has all of y'all. Hey, I'm going to run a few more races this year.
No, Ricky, you got to come back. You got to come back. Come take a photograph, guys. Come take a photo. Ted and Ricky, come over here. Ricky Smith, everyone. One of the greatest of all time, ladies and gentlemen, Tricky Ricky Smith. Awesome. Hey, Ted. I love how you tricked him, Ted.
Thank y'all, and I ain't done yet.
Never. I love how you tricked him, Ted. You had like a surprise for him. That was pretty cool. Yeah, you did a good job. So you've been doing this a long time. But hey, while you're here, why don't you check out the screen for a moment?
Ricky Smith. He won 5 IHRA World Championships in Pro Stock. I remember him. I was running for IHRA at the time. You couldn't beat the guy out of the gate. Lots of times his car wasn't as quick.
That is not the correct video. One moment, please. That's how hot off the presses this is. Here we go. Yeah. Let's see if we can rack technical difficulties. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to give you Donna Garlitz. Donna is going to explain the big surprise, or maybe it's coming down right now. We're about to find out. Donna, take it away. Take it away.
We've got a special award for Ted Jones. Ted has been with our Hall of Fame for 33 years. Yeah. That's what I can figure. Yeah, right? 33? Yeah. He has devoted his time to come here, film this, get the publicity for this event so that we can carry it on into the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. If it wasn't for Ted Jones and Masters Entertainment, we would really not be what we are today because we wouldn't have the publicity that it takes to produce an event like this. And this man just had a triple bypass.
Wait a minute, it's just double.
A double bypass. His doctor does not know he's here.
Well, unless he's watching.
Don't tell her. I hope she's not streaming this. No. Okay. Because he'll be in big trouble.
What doctor doesn't know won't hurt.
That's right. That's right. And we just wanted to honor Ted this year and tell him a great big thank you from the Garlitz family, from Dad, from all of us. Thank you so much for all that you've done for us. We could not have done it without you, and we love you dearly.
Thank you.
Yep. We'll be back with more from the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame presented by Wynn's. Pat and Walt Austin enter the hall as father and son, and our Founders Award winner, Bill Holland. But first, thanks to Hangstifer's Metalworking Lubricants, been with us since 2019, and Ron Hope of Rat Trap fame, the AA fuel-altered, often on display here at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony since 2016. We'll be back with more after this.
At Eagle Lights, we're off-road and motorsport enthusiasts at heart, and one of the largest aftermarket LED headlight manufacturers in the world. Manufacturing the highest quality LED headlights and motorcycle lights possible. At EagleLights.com, you can find the right size lights with the right connectors the first time without guessing, so you can buy and use Eagle Lights with confidence. Eagle Lights, finely crafted LED lighting solutions. See and be seen.
Each year we take a little time to thank autoimagery.com for providing all the amazing photographs that you see. And a couple of years ago, we surprised this guy, Mr. Richard Shute. And so I figured I'd come out and talk to Richard because he is doing like the reverse Whit Bazemore. You are a photographer who is now becoming a drag racer. And you just went 214 miles per hour. Tell us about that, Richard.
Well, it was an opportunity that just kind of presented itself to me. Jack Beckman and I had talked about it for about a year, and he asked me if I was serious, and I said yeah, but I just kind of left it at that. And he went to Chicago this year to do some color commentary, and the week later, I get a call from Frank Bradley School Drag Racing and said, if you want to do this, let's do it. And I said, yes, I want to make this thing happen. An incredible experience. I have such respect, more so in knowing what these drivers do and the concentration and the professionalism of Frank Hawley's school is just incredible. I felt totally safe and confident in every step of the way. I'm totally thankful, and boy, these guys earn every dollar they do doing that stuff because it's insane. It's quite a rush.
Are there any plans to stage up in competition at any point?
Well, I'm in discussion right now to possibly go on and finish the alcohol dragster license up in Woodburn later on this year. It's definitely under consideration at a regional event, yes.
That would be incredible. Thank you for all you do for the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. A lifetime of service to the drag racers, and now you get to be a drag racer as well. We're pulling for you. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Don Garlitz, for the opportunity, and to all the drag racers that have allowed me to capture their images and everything over their lifetime. So
truly amazing. Thank you, Richard. And now let's go back to Big Daddy, our host, for the next Hall of Fame inductee.
Bill Holland. It's a name that people don't recognize right off, but people in the industry know who he is. He's been involved in drag racing from an early age. He's worked on teams. He's had his own cars. He even drove some of these kind of cars at one time, but he never won any championships. And he moved into a speed shop. Him and a buddy formed a speed shop, and they ran that for a number of years. Then he had his own advertising agency. Then he was editor of National Dragster for 5 years. And then he produced many of the logos for our major speed companies. Bill Holland is a name that's well known in the industry, but probably never get put in the Hall of Fame. So that's why we decided to give him the Founders Award this year, because he certainly deserves it. He's been part of the drag racing since day one. Please welcome Bill Holland to the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame.
And ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Harry Hibbler was supposed to do the induction. He could not make it last second. Of course, get well, Harry. Harry has been to so many of the Hall of Fame inductions just the past couple of years, but he did write an induction for Mr. Holland, which I will read now. Bill Holland is the consummate enthusiast. He began his involvement in the sport as a crew member for a Chevy-powered MG top dragster. His first trophy as a driver was at the wheel of a modified Studebaker at the Dry Lakes. In 1967, Bill and John Goodell teamed up on a AA fuel dragster with Tom McEwen driving. One of the most remarkable things about this team was its sponsor, the Art Linkletter House Party TV show. The sponsorship also allowed the car to be one of the very first of its kind to be featured on a national television program. At one point in time, Bill and Ralph even owned and operated a national speed shop franchise in Canoga Park, California. Bill's involvement in the sport didn't stop with his racing activities. In 1968, he became an automotive editor for the Hollywood Citizen News, where he was able to help raise the interest in various aspects of the sport. The next year, he moved into a full-time position as the editor of NHRA's National Dragster. After 5 years at National Dragster, Bill resigned to form his own advertising and public relations business, Holland Communications, where he created advertising material and logos for companies such as Jegs, Lunati Race Cams, and other notable brands, plus doing promotional work for racers including Tom the Mongoose McEwen, Don the Snake Prudhomme, and Gordy Bonin, to name just a few. In 1990, he formed the automotive industry's first internet resource for disseminating press information to magazine editors. Plus, he was part of the original committee that created the NHRA California Hot Rod Reunion at Bakersfield, California. Today, Bill can be found either actively overseeing his advertising business or tooling around his Trick Street Roadster and attending a variety of street and strip events. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bill Holland. Thank you, Harry.
It's kind of strange to be standing up here. For all of my career, I've been putting the spotlight on other people. But now that I'm here and having sat in the audience before, I'll keep it short and sweet. First, I want to thank Don and the Selector Committee for this great honor. It's beyond belief, and a special shout out to Chuck Keble for all the behind the scenes work that puts this together. I'm grateful for having been involved in drag racing at a time when we had 6 drag strips in the Los Angeles area. And part of the time was spent at San Fernando Raceway, called The Pond, where Harry Hibbler was the manager, Dave Wallace was the kid handing out time slips, and his dad was writing stories about the events. I am grateful that I was able to participate in Top Fuel at a time when ordinary guys could pool their resources and field a competitive car. I'm grateful for having spent 5 years as editor of National Dragster at the most expansive time in drag racing history. It's a time saw the introduction of Pro Stock, saw the funny car proliferation, and the rear engine revolution in Top Fuel. I'm grateful for having spent much of my time working with many industry companies, and their products and services help many a racer into the winner's circle. Lastly, I'm thankful to have the health and energy to continue my involvement in motorsports. I look forward to seeing you all at the track.
Coming up, our final inductees, Pat and Walt Austin, enter the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame together. But first, a big thanks to the Bader family and Summit Motorsports Park, supporting the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame since 2016. And of course, the palatial Hilton University Hotel here in Gainesville, Florida, for hosting the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame, presented by Wynn's each year.
Trick Chassis, custom drag racing auto part fabrication, offering high-end drag racing suspension packages and other automotive components for a variety of vehicles and manufacturers. Find quality GM in-house drag racing and performance suspension packages, chassis parts, and automotive components from Trick Chassis to spruce up your ride and take your car to the next level. Trick Chassis, street and performance suspension made in-house.
AMSOIL runs on freedom and has since 1972. We changed the industry by formulating the first API-qualified 100% synthetic motor oil. The rest of the market has been trying to follow our lead ever since. But a head start is a head start. We punish our products firsthand in our world-class laboratories and beyond. Because some things can't be learned from a test tube. Run with us.
Walt and Pat Austin, a father and son team. We only have 2 of those in the Hall of Fame, Connie Coletta and Scott Coletta. But Walt bought his son a race car when he was 16 years old, and that started it. He raced for years and years. He was introduced into the Carcraft Hall of Fame 5 consecutive years. The team won many, many races, too many to try to even say tonight. But they were teamed together for the entire year. And they built a great business together in Seattle, building race cars and selling speed equipment. And I never forget, I called Walt on the phone. I told him, you and your son have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. And he was so happy to hear that. A few weeks later, he died. And I'm so glad that we were able to put him in the Hall of Fame, and he knew it before he passed away. Here's Drew Austin and Ellie Austin Gill to make the presentation.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, the Hall of Fame, Duck, everybody. Fantastic deal we got going. There's no doubt when you think of drag racing in the Pacific Northwest, you think of my grandfather, Walt Austin. He was by far the winningest crew chief to ever come out of the Northwest. Early in his racing career, he won numerous events in Top Gas all over the state of Washington, eventually branching out and winning major events such as the Winter Nationals in '69. He still holds the mile-per-hour record today in Top Gas when he sent his twin-engine dragster down the track Ontario, running 206 miles an hour at the last ever NHRA race for Top Gas. My papa stepped away from racing in the 70s to focus on his family and business. 14 years later, my grandfather turned his head to the alcohol funny car racing, where he cemented his name in the national scene of drag racing. Starting in the early 80s, he raced alcohol funny car with Bob Gage driving and his sons and Pat and Mike crewing. After getting his feet wet, my papa made the decision to put my dad, Pat, in the driver's seat. From that day forward, Walt Austin Racing was created. Little did he know that would flourish into a successful 15-year run that resulted in 4 world championships and numerous wins. While he knew how to win races, he was a very innovative mind. He was very instrumental in the creation of the Whipple supercharger, working hand in hand with Art Whipple designing it. He also was on the leading edge with new cylinder head designs. He knew what it took to make a motor run. There were numerous power advances in the alcohol class during the time competing in it, and at the front of all of those ET and mile per hour gains was Walt Austin. Racing has always been about the people, but for my grandpa, it was about his motor. There could be 100,000 people in the stands, and if his motor wasn't happy, he wasn't happy. He always prided himself on running a happy, healthy, and powerful motor, and he did that a lot. He did it right. He did it with his family, and he did it his way. And behind him, supporting him through it all, was my grandma, his wife Sharon, of 61 years. During his last few years of life, it was hard watching a man so big, so powerful, so caring diminish with time. We lost my grandfather in September, one of the hardest days of my family's life. Through it, though it was expected, you just can't prepare yourself for something like that. After my grandpa's passing, I have always had people come from all over the place, call, text, talk to me, and tell me how it just doesn't feel right. It was truly an end of an era. He meant so much to so many people, and equally those people meant a lot to him. Even though he isn't here with us today, I know he is watching tonight. I miss the phone calls, I miss the conversations we had. Being his grandson was an absolute blessing, and I miss him so much. It is with great honor that I can stand up here tonight and talk about the career my grandfather had. At the young age of 20, my dad raced in his first national event. From that day forward, it ignited a fire that burned hard for 16 years. Growing up, going to the races with his father, my dad always knew he wanted to race. When I think of what makes a good driver, I don't necessarily think of a driver that can get good reaction times, keep the car in the groove all the way down the track. When I think of a good driver, I think of someone that can build his car from the ground up. I think of someone that can completely assemble his motor. I think of someone that can understand and feel what the car does so he can report it back to his crew chief. When I think of a good driver, I think of my dad. As good of a driver my dad was, he equally was just as good at working on the car and communicating with my grandfather about the tune-up. Winning his first national event in '86 at the Cajun Nationals with my grandpa tuning the car, kicked off a run of winning that you just don't see. 4 world championships, 75 national events, and equally, if not more, divisional races they won, ranking him top 20 all-time wins in the sport, also with the win percentage that is unmatched. In 2002, the NHRA labeled him the most successful drag racer born after the 1940s and the best driver of his generation. He had the first 250-mile-an-hour top alcohol funny car run and the first pass in the 5.5-second range. My dad was one of the most pure and talented drivers this sport had ever seen. As smooth as he was at driving his car, he was just as smooth as sliding his fuel car down the track. Being the first driver to ever double up at a national event, which he did in '91 at Heartland Park, Topeka, he was a burnout away from completing that feat at his first ever race, pulling double duty in Indy. Talking with other drivers and his friends, they say no one could handle the car like my dad. He was fierce, he was ruthless on the tree, and he knew his car. I know my dad, and I know that he doesn't talk about his wins, his accomplishments, what he did in the sport. I know what he prides himself on and what means the most to him, and that it is he raced and did it with his dad. My mom, sister, and I were at every race we could possibly attend because just like his father, it meant the most that he did it with his family. As good as my dad was at driving his race car, he was just as fierce and intense sitting in the driver's seat. One of my favorite quotes of my father's was he was so intense staging that car that he could almost see the electricity going into the backside of the bulbs. I know how proud my father is to be here tonight surrounded by his family and dear friends, and I have always looked up to my father. There's not a better father, friend, racer, and mentor. I strive to hold myself to its standards every day. Long overdue is with, excuse me. I strive to hold myself to its standards every day. It was a great ride for my grandpa and my dad. And for their final ride, long overdue, I now would like to present to you my best friend, my father, Pat Austin, your 2024 Hall of Fame inductee on behalf of himself and his father, Walt Austin, also your 2024 Hall of Fame inductee.
Hi, everyone. Been a long time since I've had to do any of this. I'm going to talk first about myself, and then I want to finish with my dad. I'm going to use notes for myself, and I'm going to shoot from the hip for my dad. So, here we go. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Big Daddy. We appreciate everything you've done for drag racing in the past and the future, and especially tonight. Congrats to all. Congrats to all of tonight's recipients and past recipients. We all wanted to contribute to the sport, to set OET, to win the event, but we really never thought about being inducted into a Hall of Fame. This is like icing on the cake and a real honor, and we appreciate it very much. I retired from driving when I was 37 years old. I did that because I wanted to spend more time with my family. We hit it really hard as a family and a group for 16 years. Starting out with just me and my brother and my dad, driving to Baton Rouge, not qualifying, and getting real mad about that, and looking forward to the next race. I knew it was time when my focus changed from winning races to helping my wife raise our family. I did, right? Okay. As much as I love drag racing, I wanted to put that 100% effort into my family. But when we were racing, it was full throttle all the time. Whether on the track, at the shop, at a sponsor event, or at a bar. We hit it really hard. Even though we started out an alcohol funny car, we tried to operate as a professional team. And this really came together when the Castrol Super Team was created. We were really the first nationally sponsored alcohol car running all the NHRA events. Okay, we lost it. Run all the events, as well as some IHRA events. The tide raises all ships, and that Castrol team enhanced all of drag racing. I would like to thank John Gardella, who is not with us anymore, for believing in us. John was the patriarch that pushed that, went out, designed the team, went out and got the racers that he thought was best fit for each class, and made it all happen. We were the winningest car on that team for the first 10 years of a 12-year relationship. We raced as a family. A lot of families race. As easy as that sounds, it wasn't always that easy. The reason God made friends is to apologize for relatives. That's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah. I think everybody has something to say about that. I have had the good fortune of being in numerous award ceremonies, and I get to pick up the hardware. But I am here because the friends, crew members, sponsors, suppliers, fans, and all of the people who believe in us, they are all in our Hall of Fame. Today, my kids are raised and married. I have grandchildren, and we went back racing a few years ago. We started in a front-engine dragster, A-fuel front-engine dragster, in the NHRA Heritage Series, which my son drove, where he won a couple of championships. During the COVID, we built a nitro funny car with my son driving. We showed up at our first race, the California Hot Rod Reunion, where we set low ET, won the race, and really haven't hit our ass since. But we're working on it. You know, when they say about nitro, it's here today, gone tomorrow type thing, you know, and I'm telling you, I feel like I've been in 50 fights and lost every one of them. But we're going to fix it. And this is with a Ford Boss 429 motor that my dad designed and had built, and then NHRA outlawed it. It was legal in the rule book, but my dad has been through this numerous times because of his innovation, and he challenges a lot of the rules. And if you're not challenging the rules, you're not doing your job as a crew chief. What really has got me through it and made me who I am is this chairperson of our Hall of Fame, my wife, Keela. Thank you for putting up with me, Keela, and letting us do this. I know you're not always happy about it, but you'll get over it. And my daughter, Allie. She misses me when I'm gone, and I miss her. So, hard to imagine anyone more supportive than them. They pick me up when I am down, and they bring me back to earth when I get wound up, which years ago used to happen a lot. I would not be here today and be inducted into this International Drag Racing Hall of Fame were it not for my dad, Walt, and my mom, Sharon. My mom wanted to be here, but she did not want to leave home at this time. It still has been a short time since my dad passed, and she's getting better, and we're all trying to be there for her. So, for 5 years, my dad coached me in football, and we only lost one game. We were really good. For 16 years, he was the most winningest crew chief in alcohol racing. We didn't win them all, but we showed up at every race to win. For 61 years, my dad was married to my mom. My dad, my crew chief, my mentor, and my friend. Godspeed, Dad. Thank you. Okay, now remember, I'm winging this one, so I hope I won't be very long with this one either, but I just want to get to the point. As an intro, my dad was a hell of a racer, but he was a great dad as well. Just his first enjoyment in life was being with his family and taking care of his family, which he did very well. When my dad started racing when he was about 17 years old, he had a 36 Chev. He put a 455 Oldsmobile in it and 6 carburetors, and he went out and started racing. He had a bunch of guys that he hung out with that had, worked on their cars together, and they had good times, and they were young and having a great time. And so they got this airport up there in Puyallup they used to race at, and in Shelton. And the airports are long. Well, they didn't race a quarter mile. They raced a mile. And they did it with 4 wide. And that's what they really got them all going. And eventually they turned it into the quarter mile, but they raced that way when they were young. So my dad started going to the races. He started it with gas dragsters in the 1961. He was built his first gas dragster, and they went out and raced locally, and he had a lot of fun doing it, and he got hooked. He just got hooked, and he just loved drag racing. And he, through the years, he built a lot of cars, won a lot of races, and he always put a priority on not leaving his family. He always told me, he says, it's going to be really hard for somebody to for us to make money racing, he said, so we might as well not plan on that, but we're going to do it and we're going to enjoy it, but we're going to do it on our terms, when we can do it and when we can't do it. And he always said, what I'm doing is the main event. I don't care what anybody else is doing, what I'm doing is the main event. And he stuck to that. But he was so competitive that, I mean, he was there to win every race. He was when it comes to drag racing, if you saw his shop that he has up there, my dad is an engine guy. I mean, cars are one thing, but he loves engines, and he has all kinds of engines up there. We've got probably 20 motors that he still had to build before I was hoping he could get them done before he passed away, but it didn't happen that way. But he's got some really cool stuff up there, and he's proud of every one of them, because he's done things to them that maybe has been done, maybe hasn't been done, but nothing is what it is believed to be with him. You know, he's just a very, very sharp guy. And to win, you got to have an advantage sometimes, you know. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you got to outrun somebody, but sometimes you got to have an advantage. And my dad raced that way, and he did a dang good job with that. He made some really nice stuff. And he was very successful in drag racing, and I'm very proud of him. He did it at the same time he was trying to race. He had a job. My mom and him got married in 1961. They had my sister. They had just bought a house, and he was working for a outside sales company that sold auto parts and things like that. Well, he really got a good name for himself in a short period of time, because he was able to get into Fort Lewis and McCord, the military base up there, and he made this huge contract with selling batteries to the military. And he was doing good. And then my grandpa comes along, who just opened a radiator shop about a year and a half ago before this, and he come and asked my dad if he'd go to work for him. And my dad says, nah, we're doing fine. My mom said, no, you're not doing that. And so he denied him, and then a couple weeks later, my grandpa came back, and my dad really wanted to do it, so he did it. He went to work for my grandpa. 2 weeks later, my grandpa died. He was sick, and my dad was 23 or 22 years old at that time, and here's this business that now he's got to take over. He did it just like he does anything else. He took it head on. He expanded that company from one shop to 34 shops to 12 nationwide warehouses, and he sold that company in 1994. And the smart thing he did was like a McDonald's. McDonald's sells hamburgers, but their big business is real estate. And that's what my dad did. He kept all the real estate, sold the business, and smart guy. And I'm very proud of him for that. Then comes the family. He just always sports, always had all us kids pointed in the right direction. The interaction that he always had with us, you knew where you stood. He wasn't a guy that would not come home at night unless he was working, which he always was when he was younger. And you look at the family life we had, I go back and look at it, especially after he passed, and I just said, I want to be that guy. But I said it long before, because I knew who he was, and when he died, I said, thank you for teaching me that, Dad, because it worked out really good for me. I got my friends here that have been with us for a long time. I want to thank the crew that we've had over the years, the people that are involved in the programs that we had for years. There's too many to say, but you can't do it without a good crew, and we always had good people. And my dad was the leader of that as well. I want to say thank you to everybody. I'm glad I could come down here and do this for my dad and myself. I'm glad it was put together at the same time, and I appreciate all the people that inducted us doing it that way, and it means a lot to me. And thank you very much. Everybody enjoy your night.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, final photo of the night. Remember, April 28th, CBS. There will be an edited version, a tight version. You can all gather around the TV and watch again. But other than, we're going to have a group photo. Thank you, Richard. Everybody who was inducted into the Hall of Fame, stay near the stage. We're going to do a group photo at the conclusion of this. That's right, Richard. Last year, tracking him down was tough. But other than that, that's all, folks. Thank you so much for joining us once again. We appreciate you greatly. Don't forget to go to the Hawthorne Room where you can pick up your glasses. Brought to you by Wright Trailers and Roy Hills Drag Racing School. And how about our great sponsors, the ring sponsor of Summit Racing Equipment, and, of course, Pat and Jerry Baltus. Thank you so much, of course. Over there, Wright Trailers, Roy Hill, and the Bill Simpson Foundation. My name's Joe Costello. It is absolute an honor. Thank you so much. I appreciate this. And remember, April 28th, you can see it all again on CBS. Enjoy the Gator Nationals. We'll see you at the track tomorrow.